It's over. It's over.
Hey guys, how y'all doing? Yeah, see this one was a little delayed because I've had some trouble getting in touch with some of the guys that I wanted to stream this with. I guess it's a stereotype that proves itself true, right? Hey Shrimp Cell. Hey Broomstick. Nocturnal Joe, how you doing? Yeah, we do have some guys on though, including one guy from Peru who's going to talk about things there. Still just waiting on him. Just be a little bit. But in the meantime, actually, I wanted to talk a little bit about some other stuff, not directly related to the Latin American stuff, just because we might as well, while we wait for the guest to come in. So the most interesting thing that happened recently was the T-Finder thing. And by the way, you guys can hear me, right? Am I coming in clear? Can I get a mic check? Hello? All right, we're good. All right, this is the most interesting thing that's happened in the last couple days. T-app breach exposes 72,000 IDs, photos, and other user images. So I'm sure you guys are aware of this. Now, this doesn't really affect us directly, of course, because this is mostly about sex havers going on these sites and getting doxxed. But it's still interesting because with the breach of the site, we also got access to their selfies. And these are the chicks that are calling you Inkwell. Just a second here. This goes to show exactly what we were talking about. Now, the women that are seething the most are not the attractive women. They're actually the unattractive women. Technically, that would be either the looks match of most of us or below them. But yeah, we have to deal with this. Just 1 second. Hey, Maramy, how you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. So yeah, we got a little bit of a delayed start because we're having some trouble getting our guests in. Elzak.
Okay, so we're still waiting for our guest anyway, so it wasn't me.
Yeah. Do you have anything that you noticed about this T app, by the way, just while we wait for our guest to come in?
This um so I tried not to pay attention to it. I figured as in what are we supposed to say? Like because we can't like what's the code?
Uh, are we talking about
Douglas mail or something?
what, Inkwells?
Inkwell? Okay, we can say Inkwell.
Yeah.
As an Inkwell, I figured I didn't really even need to worry about it. Like the ladies don't really know I exist anyway, and like why stress about it? You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of figured like
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it
like
was
I
just a
mean,
minor
lady's
entertainment
gonna
thing.
lady,
Yeah.
but like if I'm out of the running anyway, I don't. I figured I didn't really need to worry about it, and in a way, like this was a situation where maybe being Inkwell is somewhat advantageous because you don't have to worry about it.
Oh yeah, that's true. Well, we have Elzak in the room now, so this is what we were bloviating for. How you doing, Elzak?
Hi guys, how you doing? Doing fine.
Not too bad. I think I'm going to turn you up a little bit. All right, so one of the reasons why I wanted to make this stream is because it's actually quite difficult to find Latin Americans in these spheres. It's very peculiar, but it doesn't seem like there's that many of them. And it's interesting because you would think, given that, especially in the younger generations, Hispanics make up around 20-25% of the young U.S. population. They would be at least noticeable around these circles, but you really don't see them. For the most part, it's just whites and blacks. Now I know Elzak,
Yeah,
in your case, you're Peruvian, so you don't really have any connection to America, like the United States. So this
yeah,
wouldn't
I
directly
don't.
apply to you. But do you find that interesting? Like, do you have any guesses as to why that might be the case?
Okay, I remember I've seen some people from Chile and Colombia and Spain in the server,
Yeah,
but that's all. Yeah, that's all the guys I know. That are coming from South America
yeah,
and
yeah.
that are living in South America.
Yeah, it's peculiar. Like Mexican
Yeah.
Americans, when I was doing my dating research, I found, and this is what caused me to start asking questions as to whether there was something else going on than what we were led to believe. Because Hispanics were the only group, or, well, they weren't the only group, but they were the group that were most likely to say that both the women and the men are most likely to say that dating has gotten easier in the last 10 years. Now, still, the majority still said that it was getting harder, and this is also the case for the men. But for in this case, it's like almost twice as much for the next group, which would be white women. And we find the same is true for Hispanic men. They report the least difficulty with dating, and this is despite being the youngest as well, which is also really strange.
Well, to me, yeah, it is to me. To me, it's strange also. But I mean, there is a case of they are misreporting the situation. It's not like it's easier.
No, like the majority still say that it's more difficult, and the
Yeah,
same is
yeah.
true for men. So it's not like that they're saying it's easier, but it's that they're having less of a problem than
Oh, okay. Yeah, easier compared to the other races. Yeah, I
yeah.
get
They're
it.
still saying it's more difficult, but it's more like they're having less of a problem than these other groups. And this is despite Mexicans being significantly shorter than blacks and whites on average. About 5'7" on average. I think 5'8". I think maybe.
Yeah, I feel like with whites, you're really kind of expected to be 6 feet. I mean, I might get some pushback for that, but amongst like the whites I see that are like 22 and under, like 5'11's like short.
Yeah, but also because the females are also short. Very short.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, even short
but
women want tall men though.
I think
Oh,
what
okay.
Mercer is saying
True.
is that given like the height and given that so many Hispanics are like in the young demographics where dating has gotten harder recently, he would expect more Hispanics even to be in this sphere because they're younger, and as a younger demographic, the social meta just isn't the best for dating. So all else equal, we would expect to be seeing more Hispanics in this sphere than we actually see. I think we actually see a lot of white guys in this sphere, which given the demographics, you wouldn't necessarily expect because the younger population, like under 35, isn't isn't particularly white. Like a lot of the white people are like old. Um, so it seems like Hispanics in the U.S. and I guess even in Latin America aren't. I don't want to say they're immune, but they don't seem to be being hit as badly.
At least whatever's happening to us seems to be hitting them more delayed, in a more delayed fashion. But it is still hitting them. And here's some evidence of this. So in Latin America, birth rates are actually falling quite rapidly. And this is including Peru. And this is something you had mentioned to us as well, is that things are changing really fast for Zoomers in particular.
Yeah, they are. They are.
Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about that? I know you're closer to my age.
Yeah. Let me see. For Zoomers, is quite different. Very different to my generation, which is I am in my 30s. Like in my generation, I don't see like there is a big problem with ingwells. There is another big problem. I mean, it's apparent to me the ingwell problem is a new problem for this Zoomers generation in Latin America.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was kind of wondering too. Is maybe Latin America is a little behind the times, but they're not. They're not like fundamentally different.
Yeah, so that's your answer. Why you don't see that much people from Latin America in the server in the community? Because there wasn't a problem. Like people in their 30s, they don't have this problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so you think maybe in a few years we'll start to see a lot more like Hispanic inkwells in this community. like in a few years, and that it's so new that like people haven't really realized what's happened yet. So you don't see them in the community yet, but it's only a matter of
Exactly.
time.
Exactly. Like
Okay.
the other thing is the obvious thing, like the language barrier. That's the first obvious thing.
But I'm thinking of the US ones, and
Oh,
I think
okay.
the US, yeah. Because even in the US, I feel like the people in their 20s in the US, it's probably like a third Hispanic at least, something like that.
Okay. Well, I don't have an opinion because I don't know the situation of Latin American people in the US. But my guess is like the Sumer are just coping so hard, like they are invisible.
Yeah, and I guess they're better. Maybe they're better at coping than the white Zoomers who
Yes,
seem to
I
make up.
mean, all these Ingwell Summers are just immersed in video games on other copes that people don't see them. They are invisible.
Mhm.
And also they don't have a voice, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you won't see them in these spheres.
You know, that is something I noticed is there's a certain type of, now maybe this is more of a Mexican thing, but I have noticed there's a certain type of Zoomer Latino that is really into anime and also tends to be like a neo-Nazi online,
Well,
but simultaneously loves anime. Like it's, if you look at social media, the anime PFPs that spout Nazi talking points, they're overwhelmingly Hispanic. Like usually the white guys that do the pro-Nazi stuff, they'll use like some sort of either Roman statue, or maybe if they're good looking, they'll use a photo of themselves, or they'll use some historical figure, like some Anglo historical figure. But when it comes to far right Latino Zoomers, it's always going to be anime PFP. I mean, to be honest, I kind of like the aesthetic of the anime PFP better. There's a certain kind of irony to it that I enjoy. I find the Roman statue stuff was a little overplayed, but it is peculiar. It seems like anime is really one shot. A lot of Latin Americans. We used to make fun of whites for being into anime, but I don't know. What do you think? Have you noticed that? Like you mentioned, actually, this is something we're going to get into. We're going to talk to you a little bit about your life story, not like too in detail, but just some of the experience you have, just to contrast it to what we're used to. But and you had mentioned
okay.
one of the women that you are acquainted with is a cosplayer, right? I'm guessing it's like
Yeah.
anime cosplay stuff.
Yeah, like this anime culture is quite big here in Latin America. Not only anime, I will say like also the Korean culture, like K-pop culture, quite big in Latin America.
Yeah, that's another thing. I completely forgot about that. They really love, like there's a lot of, especially women in a lot of Latin American countries really love K-pop. Like if I were a Korean rice cell, I would be trying to figure out how to parlay that somewhere in Latin America. I don't know how well it would work, like if I was Japanese or Korean, but that would be one of my plans. Because it
Yeah,
seems like a
that
strategy
will
that
be.
could work.
I mean, as long as you are like a 6 foot Korean, you will do it.
That's true. That's true. Actually, height is king, right? And it is king there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is king there too. Probably even worse in South Korea. Now that I think about it, from what I've seen,
Well,
it's worse in South Korea probably than a lot of Western countries now.
South Korea has a terrible male surplus. I mean, I don't. I think it's maybe like the instincts of the ladies are the same, but they just have a lot of power in South Korea to act out their instincts because they had like 120 male births for every 100 female births for like 20 plus years. Like there's just a big male surplus. So yeah, the ladies are going to be able to choose the top because they can. It's not like they're choosing the top because they're choosing because like they just want to. It's like they can. You know what I mean? Like
That
if
is,
there were
yeah,
a
you're
hundred
right.
and
Yeah,
if there were 120 female births for every 100 male births, I'm gonna get some pushback, but I don't think we would see like Inkweldon as a problem. Like I think there would still be a disparity, but I think every guy would be able to get something.
Well, yeah,
Maybe not
exactly.
every guy, but like
Exactly.
95% of guys
Well, you
would
have
be able
to
to get
you have to
something.
explain how despite not having a really hardcore patriarchy, things were a lot better for baby boomers than there were for younger generations. Like baby boomer guys, like I've brought my father up a few times in the past. Baby boomer guys had the absolute pick of the litter. I mean, they had an amazing time compared to what we're used to, and you have to explain that somehow. And um, what I've thought is that like the black pill stuff is true. It is correct in terms of the explanations as to how women operate in terms of selection. But you have to explain why it becomes more prevalent and more powerful or less in different circumstances. And what I would say is, and this is by the way a preview to a video I'm going to be making in response to Tails' video where he mentioned me, because he's probably not going to get a mention back from Rehab Room, who is the main target of the video. So I'm going to do a response. Really, it's the gender ratio balance. It's the structure of the gender ratio balance that explains why women are able to have all this selecting power in one area, but not in another. And this is also why I think Latin America, there's nothing truly magical about the culture there. It's not that Latin American culture is just so much more positive and inclusive towards men, and it is more social, I would say, than Anglo culture. But it's primarily because the gender ratio, especially as you get younger in the younger populations, is better, and this allows for men to have more bargaining power. And what I was going to note with this collapse in the TFR is that this is going to reverse, just like it did in our countries. It's going to have the same problem. So this window is going to close probably in about 10 or so years, 10, maybe 20 years tops. Then it's going to get really bad in most of these countries. Well, we'll see if maybe we'll figure out something before then. Like there'll be some kind of breakthrough, magical breakthrough that'll solve everything. I don't think so, especially when you look at these drop-offs. Now, the good news is that if you look at these countries, like for example, Peru, the birth rate in Peru was like 2010 was like 2.5. So that means that girls that'll be 20 in 2030 will still be a larger portion of the population than the girls that are older than them and the guys that are older than them. So they're going to have the normal triangle shaped pyramid for at least another 20 years or so. But it's going to be inverting after that point, and it's going to be upside down after about 30, 40 years, which won't matter for us, but it will matter in terms of long term, like how these countries are going to be stable in the future. And especially if you combine that with, like, the stuff that we're talking about is not novel stuff. Like, this isn't like cutting edge. Geomaxxing is not cutting edge. Right? There's been guys that have been doing this. Literally, if you think about Latin America, like geomaxxing was what the conquistadors did in 1500. Like this isn't a new idea. And what may happen is as things get exponentially worse in Western countries, especially economically, it might actually be a counterbalance because people will be too poor to move. But you're still going to see a steady flow of guys out of Western countries and into pretty much the entire rest of the world. And as time goes on, you're going to start seeing reactions against these guys that are coming in from the local guys, which is completely understandable. I don't think it'll be as bad in Latin America as it will be in Asia because, for example, whites and also, blacks as well, and Hispanics that are in the U.S., like second gen, third gen Hispanics, they're all familiar in Latin America. Like these aren't unknown groups of people. Unlike in Asia where we're completely alien. So I don't think it'll be quite as bad, but it is going to be coming. Do you have any thoughts on that, Elzak? Anything to add to that?
Yeah, like in this, at least in the next 10 years, there's not gonna be a big problem because there is another thing that's not reported. Like there are a lot of people living in regions that there is no working with statistics. Like there are a lot of people living outside the statistics, and I'm
Okay.
talking about people living like deep in the Andes region, people living in the jungle. Like we don't have many statistics about them, and of course, because of poverty, their poverty is basically is saving the 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 couples the relationship problem because if you are a middle class guy in South America, you can go to the poor regions and find a wife, basically.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? Because it's not like Western countries where being poor is easy. I mean, not
Yeah,
easy, but it's not. You know, it's not like it's such a miserable existence that you would be doing anything you could to get out of it. So, like, there's not that many
yeah,
women in Western countries that would be willing to just marry some guy just to get out
yeah,
of, their living conditions.
yeah,
Whereas in Latin
yeah,
America, and probably a lot of different countries, that is going to be the case. So instead of it being like a us versus them, it could just be like a cascading thing where you'll have people migrate in and they'll increase competition for women in say the middle class parts of the cities, and then the cities will then get pushed out. The guys that are
yes,
maybe peripheral will get pushed out of the cities, and they'll start poaching women from just outside the cities, and it'll be kind of it'll be like a cascading effect, and the guys that'll be worst hit are going to be the guys on the bottom, right?
yeah, yeah. It's like I'm referring to like a local passport bros, local geomaxxing, like inside the country. You can geomax inside the country.
Internal geomaxing. Yeah, how does
Yeah,
that
yeah.
how does that
Because
work in Peru? Do you have any specific do you have any
uh,
specific
for
examples?
instance, if you see a map, you can watch. You can see Lima is the capital city. It's near the coast. Imagine if you are like an average looking guy, you can find a wife, and you just travel deep inside the Andes region or the jungle region, and because there is more poverty in those areas, you can basically find a girl that is um, that is living with her parents, and their parents are gonna be grateful that you take these girls, you know.
That makes a lot of sense.
So
Okay, so it's like old style where like
yeah,
they're happy
but
that someone takes care of the girl. They're not like the girl has to get the best possible guy ever because she's a girl and that's the
but
best thing you
then
could be.
yeah, but then again, the problem will be the quality of females, you know.
Yeah. See, that's something else that I wanted to go into. It's kind of a touchy subject, contentious, but it is something
Yeah,
that is a thing. So, race in these countries, it does matter, right? So,
yeah,
um,
there is a big problem with races in Latin
yeah.
America in
So
general.
there was a guy that had posted in the chat. He said that he was in more of an indigenous Latino, and he had trouble dating on social media or on dating apps. Like women would not, Hispanic women were not interested, and it seems like there's quite a bit of prejudice if you're more indigenous looking. So it's sort of ideal to be more white looking. Now this is an advantage if you are a white guy going into these countries, but then it kind of poses a question because if you decide to go the safe route and you poach like a really indigenous looking woman, like there was an example actually. I might pull it up. There was an example of this Mexican woman who did like Mexico related vlogs and like Spanish language vlogs, and she did one of her things was she did a DNA test and she was 100% indigenous genetically, 100% indigenous. And then she did another vlog where she's hanging out with her husband and it's some Anglo guy from England and you realize,
Was
okay,
she
technically,
was she a better looking indigenous woman?
yeah, she was pretty decent looking. She looked kind of like Southeast Asian, actually,
Okay.
and not like an ugly Southeast Asian, but she looked like Southeast Asian. She said that she went to somewhere like Vietnam, and
Uh-huh.
people thought that she was Vietnamese, and they were actually giving her shit because she saw she was walking with her husband, who's this Anglo guy, so she thought it was like he was like touring him around. as a Vietnamese woman, and she was getting shit on by these Vietnamese guys, and she kept having to try and explain that she's not Vietnamese, she's Mexican. But her kids are going to be a first degree mestizos, right? They're going to be exactly 50%. I mean, it's not 50% Spanish, but it's 50% Anglo, 50% indigenous. So basically like a first generation mestizo. And you could be inserting your kids into this caste system if you have them, without really knowing what to do with it, you know, like it kind of makes me think of what happens with Hapa kids in the U.S. and other Anglo countries, where these white guys are kind of clueless about it. They'll have these kids with these Asian women, and the Hapa kids will be completely alienated from both their fathers and their mothers, you know, and it's kind of a screwed up situation.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, but I kind of had the impression that like Latin America was so mixed race anyway that like there might be like a soft preference for whiter people, but it's not like if you have a kid with like if let's say you're like a white guy and you have a kid with like a mestizo woman, like that kid will be maybe like somewhat better off than like a regular like mestizo kid, but it wouldn't be like an identity crisis, so to speak, because Latin America is so like mixed race anyway.
Yeah, in Latin America it will be okay.
Sorry, what'd you say? What will be okay?
Like it will be okay if, like, if you are a mixed race, like the situation like Mercer is saying. Like
Okay.
living in Latin America, it will have no problem. Like compared like living in the US.
Okay. Yeah, because in the U.S., I mean, there's definitely like mixing, but it's also a like race is kind of top of mind, and it's kind of like some like weird narratives around race. But in Latin America, it's like it's more of just a soft preference for white people, would you say? But it's not like weird narratives around race. Would you say that's the accurate way to describe it?
Yeah, I will say white is true, but because of media, uh, girls not only now the new generation, not only one guy, white guys, but also white and attractive. Like you can be white, but if you're like a like a 4 out of 10, it's over. It's still here in Latin America.
Okay, so that's good to know. Don't white guys just aren't automatically God. Like it's still like that good-looking white guy, expectation. Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know.
Yeah, basically because of they are
brutal.
watching. Also, these girls I also watch Disney Channel. So
Is it dubbed, or is it like subtitles?
no, it is dub. It is dub.
Okay.
Everybody knows Hollywood movies, so they are aware of how white people look like.
Did you guys watch the show Jessie? That was a Disney Channel show. Anyway, I think
myself, I don't watch too much Disney, but I can see like girls talking about all the series, all these.
This is, by the way, this is the chick that I was talking about. So okay, I mean she's a little older now. She looks like she's in her maybe early 40s now, but you could tell. I mean, she's probably an average-looking Mexican girl. But yeah, she did this thing with her husband, and it's just this random Anglo dude, and she. Yeah, here he is. He's bald cell too. Living in Vietnam. And yeah, she's 100% indigenous. Right. Anyways.
I can't check the stream because I'm like in the Discord, but is it like a robust skull white dude or is it like a bald cell?
He's average, but he looks like he's a bit on the tall side.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if you go bald, like 95 times out of 100, like you're a true cell if you're bald. I mean, like there's the rare exception of like a perfect skull, but that's the rare exception. That's kind of unrelated.
But that couple looks much like they both at average.
Yeah, that's true. And she does also give the vibe that she's pretty well educated by Latin American standards.
Yeah.
So I mean, they are kind of like,
Yeah.
you know, and she seems like a nice lady, so I'm not going to shit on her. But it's just funny
Yeah.
that she thought that she was like typical Mexican, but then she had some Asian or something, and then she did a DNA test, and it came back 100% Nahuatl or whatever the I think it's Nahuatl. That's the indigenous. It's pretty funny. Yeah. Anyways, just gonna see if there's something else. White guys are here because they're not willing to date Marinas or Linglings, 1-2 points lower on the scale. Sorry, Little Broomstick. I actually disagree with you there. I
Little
think
Broomstick. What race is Little Broomstick?
he's white. He's white.
Oh, okay. So is he not willing to date like what Marinas and Langs or whatever that are 1-2 points lower? Is that his situation, or
No, I
I
think
guess
he
that is his
has. He
situation
has in the
because that's what
past.
he's saying for
He
white
has in the
guys.
past. I remember talking to him about it. We had conversations about this
Okay.
stuff. But it's I don't know. I think that I would actually say that of the picky races, white men are not the most picky. White men have a tendency to date a variety when it comes to women.
I will agree. Yeah, because basically, white people living in the US or Europe, they are not very familiar with the other races. The difference, a small difference in other races.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
disagree. I think in the U.S. I mean, probably in Europe too. Now you're very familiar with other races. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe in like rural, like New Hampshire or something, but other than that,
No, I think what he means is they're not familiar with them on their own terms. Like, for example, if you didn't understand how Latin America worked with race, you would assume that it would be, if you grew up with like libtard stuff, you would assume that it would be La Raza Cosmica, where everyone's mixed, but they have this sort of in-group and out-group identity where you as a white guy are not part of it, and white people are not part of it or whatever. When in reality, Latin America there's white people for the most part, or like 90% white people, and then there's mostly indigenous people, black people, and then all in between. And it's kind of organized in a social hierarchy because that's just how, Spain dominated them. So of course it's going to be people that are at the top of the society are going to be ethnically Spanish for the most part, or ethnically European in general. So that is just how it is. But
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
By the way, this is something that I was going to talk about. Again, I don't think Jeremy Jeeks can see this, but I'll just explain it so that you guys can see it who are listening. This is showing sexlessness by age bracket. And it's
oh,
going
you
from
have to say
19...
snugglelessness, or can you
Yeah,
say?
I
Can
think
you
we're
say
okay.
what-
I think we're okay on stream. It's mostly on video, recorded video. You have to be careful.
Okay.
So it's looking at 1982 to 2023. I brought this up before, but this is relevant to the conversation because this is also related to how we were talking about the birth rates going down sharply in these Latin American countries. So if you look at sexlessness by measure, it goes from no sex ever to no sex in the last 3 months. And for men, it goes from about, I would say 23 plus 10, 33. So about 37% in 2016 for men, up to 69% of men are either dry for the last 3 months or longer. So it's actually gone up almost double. Actually, I think more than double. No, it's less than double, but it's almost double in just less than 10 years in the United States. It's gone up a bit for women too, but not nearly as much. And it's funny that this sort of parallels the spike in or the collapse in fertility in Latin America, where you see around the same time. I mean, they don't really show the brackets as well because it's going from like 2010 to 2030. But you can roughly see around the same time, around 2015 or so, 2014, fertility falls off a cliff in most of these countries. So it does seem like there was an entire phenomenon that happened around that time. And it also happened in Latin America too. Now, I don't think the sexlessness issue has happened in Latin America yet, but it's getting there. Though, we wanted to also get some of your personal examples, Elzak,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
that was actually one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on, because we had quite funny conversations.
Yeah.
Because the situation that you describe in Peru is very different from what we are used to in Western countries. Do you want to give us one of the stories? For example,
Okay.
the chick who was a
Yeah.
teacher. I remember you'd mentioned her.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Okay, the stories. First of all, some background story. I'm a Peruvian from living in Peru, and I'm in my 30s. And when I was 20, in my 20s, I was very shy guy, like basically because I'm average looking. I'm like, so I don't have that uh, chat advantage, you know. Uh, basically, in my 20s, I have terrible relationships, terrible. Like, feminism was on the rise like 10 years ago. So girls, girls think they are better than you. So I had a very terrible life in my 20s. By age, when I reached this age, 30s, I I basically discovered the black pill and basically started changing the way I behave with females. So I try not to be that like a beta male, you know, those beta traits, and decided to meet females. Like I stopped dating. Like I used to date fat females, you know, because of course, like they are easier to date, or at least I thought they were easier to date in here in Latin America. So I decided to date more attractive females, and I find like a few girls. For instance, I met a girl who is a dancer, who's age 20,
How old were you at the
and
time, by the way, when you met?
um, in my 30s. Basically, I'm 10 years older than her.
So you're saying that, just to be clear, you're saying that for local guys, so this isn't like a geomax situation. Local guys, a 10-year age gap isn't, you don't get shit on for that.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly.
This is something I just wanted to bring up because it reminds me of my situation with my father. And again, this brings it back to me thinking this isn't a cultural thing so much as it's a demographic thing, because my father was able to, like, my mother was 20 years younger than my father. My father was 50 and my mother was 30. Well, she had turned 30
Mercer,
after I was
was
born.
your father like exceptionally wealthy or something, or was
No,
he
I mean
kind of
he
just
was
like
he was middle class. I mean, he owned his own house, but I mean that's not super remarkable in the 90s, you know. And
yeah,
he was like a self-employed blue collar guy. He did a lot of trade work.
okay,
I mean, he made good money. He made probably above the average, maybe like 70th percentile.
but
So like,
okay, but not like 98th percentile or
no,
something.
no, no. He would have been like middle class, maybe slightly above the average middle class, I would say. So not like super
Okay,
exceptional, like nice quality of life, but you know, and he was
Yeah.
decent looking too, but he wasn't tall. He was maybe 5'10", 5'9.5" at maybe, and also, and as I said, like quite a bit older. And it was not that unusual from the 70s to the 90s for men to dip down in age quite a bit because they could, because there was availability of women. You can't really do that now. Anyways, sorry for that digression there. I just wanted to mention that because it's interesting. But carry on. So you met this girl. She was
Okay.
20 and you were in your 30s.
Yeah.
So it was like a 10-year gap, you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah. Yeah. So, um, I was decided to meet more attractive girls because, okay, because I mentioned like I used to date like fat chicks because I thought they were easier, but these relationships with these fat chicks were terrible. Like the girls always will dominate in the relationship. So I started meeting new females, and it is not difficult to meet females in Latin America. Like also in dating apps, you can find girls, but um, my problem is the quality of females, and I mean The quality by that I mean like they are not loyal. Like basically, you're gonna find females that are gonna cheat on you a lot, a lot.
Yeah.
Like it's so rare to find women that are loyal to their men. So rare. And okay, I found this dancer age 20, and basically she's very attractive. Like if I'm an average guy, a 5 out of 10. This girl is basically 7 out of 10. And I don't know, maybe because I don't consider myself like very good at talking, but this girl maybe find something in me like because I live myself. I can I she likes drugs, by the way. She likes, I don't know if I can say drugs here in the
That's
stream,
fine.
but
That's
I do.
actually, you know what? This is something I wanted to mention.
No, I like drugs too. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's
I think
okay.
we're okay on stream. I think we're safe on stream. This is something I was going to actually mention. The the drug stuff is also a thing for Zoomers, but you don't see the same benefit that you get from it. Now, I do know of cases where drug dealers have been able to leverage their ownership of drugs to get access to women, but you don't really see it just where you're part of the subculture. You know what I mean? Where you're just available, and you know. Actually, it
Yeah.
kind of reminds me of older millennials in the 2000s. And this was while weed was still kind of cool, you know, where you could just smoke weed with the chick, and that would be good enough, you know. So it is kind
Damn,
of
I wish
it
I
is
was
something
alive
kind of
then.
similar, yeah. Yeah, now all the Zoomers smoke weed just to cope. Like now it's just the normal thing, and it's just a coping
Yeah.
mechanism. It's brutal.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry
Yeah,
for
no,
the
I
interruption
think
again. Continue,
sorry, this
Elzak.
is a segue, but I think under maybe like under 30 or definitely under 25, I think weed use has gone up like exponentially. Like
Yeah,
probably like 40% of Zoomers are like using weed at least once a week
yeah,
just to
exactly.
cope.
Anyways, go ahead, Elzak.
Okay, so I am with this friend who is very attractive, and she comes to my house because she lives with her parents, and she likes a lot. She likes to smoke weed. She likes to basically she smokes every day basically. So she needs a place where she can smoke without her parents, taking her drugs away. Um, and also
Okay,
she
so we're
does.
sorry. We're just talking like weed here. We're not talking like anything like intravenous or
No,
anything like
nothing too dangerous.
seriously.
We don't have
Okay.
any Colombians on
Okay.
yet. Maybe if we
Yeah.
have Colombians on, we'll
Well,
start
I wish
hearing
it was
about.
only weed. I wish it was only weed we are
Oh.
talking about.
Okay, well that's
But we
fine.
are
I think
talking
we're gonna
about.
be okay.
Okay.
You just got to be a little
All
careful on how
good.
you phrase things, you know.
But also we are talking about like white powder.
Okay. All
Oh,
right.
okay,
Yeah. And also there is a pink powder too.
yeah. See,
You know.
I worked with a Colombian guy once, and I remember one of the first things he showed me, and this was not asked for, by the way, just so everybody knows. One of the first things he showed me after I got acquainted with him was a photo, and he was married, by the way, of a an escort, a professional, snorting a line of pink powder off of his member. I remember thinking
Oh
to
god.
myself, is this something that Colombian guys just show random people? You know? But yeah, you just made me think of that.
Wow. Well, yeah. So this girl come to my house, and she introduced me to her friends. And she was like, "Oh, I met this guy. This guy is very cool. He's living by himself. Blah blah blah." So she started to introduce me new female friends, and basically, we have parties in my house, and you can imagine these girls are in their 20s, me being in my 30s. Well, to me, it's like this is heaven, basically heaven.
Yeah, it sounds like
And
a Jewish or an Albanian produced movie or something. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, you can imagine like everything happened, with girls with that. There is alcohol, drugs.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, just to be clear, you're not a. It's not like you're a rich guy who's part of a rich family. Like you are. You have a pretty average job, right? Pretty middle class job
Yeah,
in Peru.
yeah. Everything. I'm so average, bro. Average looking, average job, average everything.
Yeah, yeah. So just for clarity, it's not like he has tons of money that he can throw around here. Um,
Maybe I'm a little bit above average height. Maybe that's all.
yeah, you'd mentioned that actually. Yeah. So that is
Yeah,
one advantage, but at the same time, you're still otherwise a local, right? So it's not like
yeah,
it's not like you're sticking out in some crazy way that would make these women, you know, be super interested. This is clearly something else. Anyways, continue just so that
yeah, yeah,
I'll stop interrupting.
yeah. Well, also, I'm doing this. Maybe there is some. Uh, I'm doing this on purpose. I'm purposely looking for young females. Because you
Because they're
can see
better
like
looking.
and better looking, yeah, and
Yeah, yeah.
young and beautiful. Because why not?
You
Like,
do, you don't have to rationalize it like, oh, they're pure or whatever. Like they're just better looking, and that's
yeah,
fine. I mean,
no, because
yeah,
your first instinct is like, okay, you are like average. I should go for average females. That's your first instinct. But no, because I was telling like I already tried to date average females, and I didn't have a good results. That the relationship with those average females were very were awful, were awful. So I decidedly tried to meet attractive and young females. And by the way, I think in the chat some people are saying like I'm fake Sarah. Well, I'm not Sarah at all. I'm just a guy from South America.
Yeah. What are
But
they saying?
okay. Let's continue with the story. And
Yeah.
so I'm starting having these parties and meeting these females. Those um, this year basically. This year basically. And what else I can say? Okay, I trying to find girls and having, how can I say this? Having sex, getting late in Latin America is not difficult. I will say what is difficult is to trying to find a meaningful relationship, like a long-term relationship. That's very difficult with a loyal female. That's the thing.
okay.
Yeah. And you would say they're class coded, right? So for for a Latin American woman who is good quality, you're probably going to have to be part of a certain social class. It's not just random ones in the street that you would meet. Usually it's like easy access, but that doesn't mean that you're going to. If it's easy access for you, it's probably easy access for everyone else, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
does that mean a lot of STDs?
Oh,
Like if
yeah,
yeah,
that's true. If you there are statistics for that. It is very high. The STD.
okay.
It is a
So that's
problem.
that that's not good because I guess
Yeah.
that's one advantage to being an inkwell, right? Is you don't have to worry about the STDs, and STDs don't sound good.
No, no, yeah, yeah. So be careful if you're planning to come here. Like,
Yeah,
so be careful.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
But I mean,
because
if you know what you're getting into, though, it's like I'm thinking to myself, if I'm looking at the situation where the rest of my life is going to suck because of living in this country, and my alternatives are I can go to some Latin American country, end up getting like stabbed and my organs taken at some point, but still enjoy myself in the meantime. Like, in the aggregate, this is probably a pretty good trade-off. It's probably a pretty decent deal in the end. I'm sort of thinking it really depends on how much you're willing to risk and what you're willing to get into.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are other problems you're gonna encounter. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna continue with the story. So I met this girl, very attractive girl. We are talking about a 7 out of 10. The type of girl like she has like real life stalkers. You know, this dancer. She has real life stalkers, people that follow her. And then this girl who consume substances, she has like ex boyfriends that are drug dealers.
Oh,
So
that's another problem.
basically,
That's another problem, by the
yeah.
way. That's
So
another
you see,
concern.
my point is, you're gonna deal with new problems, like problems you can't imagine. Like, also, you get emotionally involved with the females because you're a human being, and if you think you have problems with being an inkwell, now that when you you are like living like a human being, you are gonna find new problems. Like there are other problems in life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, you'd
yeah.
I think.
actually. This is something. This is another one I wanted to get into because we were going to talk about the cosplayer and how she was actually an emblematic example of the kind of problems that a naive Westerner, let's say, if because you knew how to deal with the situation, but someone like me or Maramy Jeeks or someone in the chat or who is watching may not be aware of the potential risks and like what could end up happening. So, do you want to give us the lowdown on this cosplayer girl that you'd known?
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's continue. This cosplayer girl, who likes to do drugs, and she has like she has exes like are in jail, and one was a drug dealer. So imagine you start dating a very beautiful girl, and all of a sudden, and you find that there are people following you, trying to know who are you, like me, for instance.
Yeah, because
So
this
that's
isn't
well,
Southeast Asia, right? This is Latin America. There's as we were talking about drugs. There's a lot of drugs going around. There's a lot of guys that are selling those drugs, and there's a lot of gangs involved. And wrong
Okay,
chick.
but
yes,
like let's say like sorry, this is kind of related to drugs, but like let's say you want to like use drugs. Like it's easy to get them and like you won't get arrested and you can like drive on them and it's all good,
okay,
or is it
yeah.
like
Well, Latin America, or at least these countries like Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, it's very easy to to traffic, to play with drugs. It's very easy. Of course, you're
okay, so
gonna get
you can
arrested. You're gonna get arrested if you don't have the contacts in the police. You're gonna get arrested.
okay, so you can't use like gringo money like a few $1,000s and just be like, all right, make it go away. Or can you? Like
Uh, yeah,
if you're
brother.
yeah, like if you I'm not saying like traffic. I'm just saying in terms of like use. Like if
Okay,
you
here it is.
use drugs,
Yeah.
are you likely to be arrested and like seriously in trouble or no?
No, if you are
Because yeah,
if you are a user, you don't have like much problems here in South America. There are people
okay,
smoking sometimes in the street, you know.
okay, like smoke weed in the street and it's like whatever.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. So if you want to continue with this cosplayer story, because there you
Okay.
you
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
some pretty crazy experiences.
Yeah. I don't know where to start, and I don't know what to what to tell because there's. Okay. So the point I was making is like if you come to South America and you find a very beautiful girl, and then all of a sudden you have new problems. That's my point. It's not that easier.
Yeah, they always come with problems, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah. So okay, what else can I tell? I don't know, bro. Like
Well,
I can
I remember you
tell some
mentioning. I
stories.
remember you mentioning that this chick she had a habit of like going to your place and just staying over, and it would just sort of work out that way.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a common thing for girls that age, because they are in an age like they are still living with their parents, but also they want to to experiment to feel what is like sleeping in outside their houses, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are times when this girl comes to my house and she spent like 2 days in my house. And I don't know. She told me like their mother is screaming all day to her, but I don't know. They are just great. These girls are out of their mind. Like they don't mind having problems with their family.
See, you know what's funny about that? I don't know if you guys in chat who are watching have experienced this, but up here in Canada, and also I imagine in the US and Western countries, like women are so paranoid now that if you're walking behind them and they hear you walking, they hear your footsteps behind them in like a bike path or something, they will actually stop. They will wait for you to pass them and they will start walking behind you because they have this paranoia that because you're behind them, you could like hit them in the back of the head or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yet, and we hear
no males are way too cucked for that.
Yeah, no kidding.
Still...
So then I hear in Peru and these other countries in Latin America, they have governments that basically don't really operate outside the capital city, you know? Like they'll protect the airport and like super important buildings, like government buildings, whatever. But if we're talking about just everyday stuff, they're not going to be able to swoop in and save the day, you know, if something happens. But these chicks seem to not be that concerned about it.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any explanation for that? Like, do you think maybe they're just completely, are they just like prone to avoiding or not caring about danger? Or do you think it's on our end that our women are just completely psyched out?
I say it's an age thing, like, because in that age, they feel like very also powerful. I don't know. I think feminism has hit different here in South America. Like these females, they think they have the freedom to do whatever they want. Like feminism want to.
No.
Yeah. So they think they can. How can I put this way? Okay, imagine you're a female and you have the opportunity to meet new places every day. Why don't you take it? You can meet a new guy with a new house every day. And of course, getting free food, free everything. Why don't?
Yeah, up here though, they have this fear that they're always under the risk of being assaulted. And it's weird because as I said, as Meremy said, this is like the safest place on the planet to be a woman. I mean, if anything, like white men are going to be terrified to even imagine that you're feeling uncomfortable around them. Like that's how white men think.
White men won't even talk to a Floyd, dude.
Yeah.
Like
I'm thinking like white countries, and I would say maybe Asian countries like Japan and Korea, maybe. Like these are countries where like there's zero concern that these women should have, but they don't.
Okay, this is the explanation, bro. It's about like the looks threshold. Like these females, in first world country, they will go to other men's houses if they are attractive to them. If they are like, yeah, like that's easier. You know, that's the easier explanation. Like if you are like a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10, they will go to your house. Like that's the easy explanation.
That is true. That is true. Yeah.
But here in Latin America, there is no such a high threshold for looks, you know.
That is true. Fair enough. That is a good point. It still is crazy.
So, yeah, but also to continue with the story, it's because these girls, these attractive girls, will go to houses of guys who are like have drugs, basically.
Oh yeah. Yes. Okay. This is something I've explained to Meremy before. Because this is one of the ways that, like, for example, in Canada, we have a large contingent of Jamaicans, and a lot of these guys are involved with drugs, and having access to drugs is a really easy way to get your hands on a lot of fairly attractive young women. Now, they don't typically stay that way because, you know, hard drugs usually end up screwing these women up in the long run. But I mean,
even alcohol, I think, can like mess with your looks. I think.
Yeah.
I think marijuana is probably the drug that messes with your looks the least.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So as far as that goes, though, it's a super easy way to get a hold of these attractive women, and I am not surprised that it works the same way in Latin America. Though it seems
Yeah,
like,
and by the way,
oh yeah,
I don't recommend at all. I don't recommend at all to do. If you plan to do this, don't do it, bro. Like it's not healthy, and you're gonna get another sort of problems. I don't recommend that you be involved in that. What I'm doing is just, I provide a house, and these girls bring the substances. These girls are the one who bring the substances.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not recommending dealing anything either.
yeah. No, we're
Yeah,
not
yeah.
recommending that either.
Don't do it.
I'm actually saying it's a problem
Someone else
because
do that.
they really screw
Yeah,
up these
yeah.
women. It's like
Yeah, I mean, you
it's
just
like the
feel
dark side. It's like the Star Wars. Just to be a soy millennial, it's like the Star Wars universe where you got the light side and the dark side, and this is like a dark side way of doing things. It's up there with
yeah,
downloading Grinder and then looking for female to male transsexuals to because they get pumped full of testosterone, so they become super horny. That's another dark side way of like finding chicks. But yeah, we don't recommend that at all.
yeah,
It's not good.
yeah.
But it does happen though. It's important to note. So you're saying that they basically bring the drugs themselves?
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy, bro. Because now, by the way, I've been doing this just for a few months, bro. This is not a long time since I meet these girls, just a few months. So basically, so I told you that they are coming just girls. I don't invite other guys because why? Why should I?
Yeah, of course.
So you can, uh, okay, you can see like there are times like because this girl stay at my house. There were times that I have like threesomes. So I
Yeah.
have experienced like everything this year, everything like everything you can imagine.
So it was only this year, or are you saying over the past couple of years?
Over the past couple of years, I would say it's more extreme this year. It's been more extreme
Okay, so it's actually getting
because
better for you then. So this is why there's so many of these. Well, no, that would be in the U.S. I was like, maybe that's why they're saying dating's getting easier. It's like, no, that only applies for American Hispanics. So damn,
well, yeah,
because like
yeah,
I hear
yeah,
guys with stories that are kind of similar in the sense that like they'll explain the same process, but in terms of their looks, like they can't just be an average dude, you know, like they have to be
yeah,
pretty attractive as well in order for them to be given that option. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Well, funny. I read the comments. Yeah, but it is not like super common to do the things I'm doing. By the way, it's not super common.
No, it's like a one-off thing, but it still is emblematic. Like, do you know
Yeah,
how many guys could just talk about this um, as a thing that happened? And by the way, just so that people know in the stream, this guy is actually confirmed with proof that he's talking what he's talking about. Now, obviously, I'm not going to show that on stream, but I'm just saying, like, he's not lying. I can tell you that.
yeah,
And of course that was the first thing I wanted to know. Like, is this legit? Is this true? Well, yeah, it has happened. So it is a different situation. Now, Peru is also, as I was saying before, a pretty young country still. Like the average age in Peru is 29, which is
yeah.
similar to the Philippines, I would say.
Yeah, it is crazy. Also, the demographics. For instance, if you go to, you take a bus or public transportation, I find sometimes myself, uh, the bus is filled with females, and I'm the only male. It's crazy. Like,
Yeah, that would never happen here in the U.S. I mean, I remember the last time I really like took a bus was like 2018, and even then, I feel like the Floyds were a hot commodity. Just like a Floyd on a bus that was under like 50 or something.
and well, here because maybe most females are either working or studying. Like, that's
So
the
there's
reason.
no like HR. There's no like HR department for like the ladies to find a fixed income they can just live off of and like ignore guys. Is that true?
Oh, I don't know. Can you put it another way? I didn't get it.
So I mean, not necessarily just HR, but HR is kind of like a stereotypical example. But so I found in my experience, and others have found the same, that ladies in a lot of like so-called professional jobs,
Yeah.
they're not particularly good at their job. I mean, even if like they have a
Oh,
decent
okay.
salary and they're paying like taxes and they're like having a good physical impact or whatever, these ladies, essentially these jobs, like these ladies aren't really good enough to do their jobs, but these ladies have these jobs, so they aren't reliant on finding a man who has a job that he's at least decent at, because as a man, like no one's really going to hire you unless you're at least like okay at your job and you're helping the company. I mean,
Yeah. And boomers
in
also
Latin America,
boomers also own the businesses typically. Like these older guys, they want access to these
Yeah.
women. Even if they can't actually get with them, though oftentimes they can, like there's a lot of women that'll, for career reasons, they'll sleep with these dudes. But even if they can't, they still want them around. They would prefer them around than some random younger guy who's productive, even if like the amount of productivity he would have to provide would have to offset the loss of his presence, if you know what I mean, compared to having an attractive woman there instead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
okay. Yeah, what I'm trying to say also is because you can see a lot of females very active because now females are more concerned about getting a job, living by themselves than staying in a house, finding a husband.
Okay, so what you're saying is it's on the downhill.
Yeah, it's going the Western way.
yeah, times are changing.
Yeah, I guess enjoy like the looseness before the market efficiencies and all the ladies are just yeah.
I should, right? I should, yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe not, or maybe I should find like a meaningful relationship, That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, honestly, if I was you, I mean, that's what I would try to do. Like the way you describe it, it sounds almost like the US as it was described in like the 2000s or something. Like when you could just like be cool and like, sleep with these ladies, but it was going away fast. And the reason you were able to sleep with these ladies was like a decline in tradition, which that train only leads in one direction, right? That train just leads. We see where it leads. Like you could see where it leads in the US. Like maybe in the US back in the 2000s, they couldn't see where it led yet. They were like, "Oh, this is nice. Like you just got to smoke weed and you'll get the ladies," but they couldn't see where that train was headed. But
yeah, boomers.
If you can see where that train is headed, get off the train, and if you can, I mean, yeah, the train is going to the destination of the U.S. It seems as you're describing it. I mean, maybe not. I mean, maybe the income levels in Latin America just don't really justify these like more make work type positions, and the ladies will be forever dependent on a man, but maybe not.
See, that's the thing I'm wondering, because there's a certain limit, and this is something I've been thinking for a long time in the US that'll make things better, is it costs money to do this. So boomers will bring in these women and give them easy employment. And of course, the diversity quotas have to be filled. But that still costs money. And there's not a lot of money in these countries that can be thrown at this stuff. And it's the same with the redistribution that happens in the state, the US government. I wonder if now I know that Latin America is improving in terms of its income. You know, like it's becoming more prosperous, but it still is quite a ways off from the U.S., from
Yeah.
Canada. You know, and look at what's happening even up here in Canada. We have gone, our standard of living is down by maybe about 30% compared to the US, relative to how we were like 10 years ago, let's say. And already our finances are at the breaking point. Like we are really
Well,
straining, you
I
know?
mean, I think the ladies are very productive, so I think like we just need more ladies in the workforce, and
Yeah,
then
we
our
just need to
finances will be
increase the amount of
better.
government workers to 35% because we're at 25% in
Yeah,
Canada right
dude.
now.
We
So
need to give the ladies better paying jobs. That
yeah,
would really help. I mean, like the ladies are just so productive with their high paying jobs that they're paying taxes to. So the graph shows the ladies are productive. So we just need the graph to make the ladies even more productive, and that's all we need.
yeah, exactly. I do wonder, like, and another thing is that these countries like Peru, um, they don't have the kind of credit as a country that they can borrow tons of money like what we do. You know, the U.S. is able to do it. Here's the downside of the U.S. This is sort of a black pill for America. The U.S. is in a situation where they can basically borrow indefinitely without consequences, and as a result, uh, they could continue this thing for a much longer time. Whereas for us, we don't have that ability. Like we're not the reserve currency, so if we borrow money, it gets hit against us in terms of inflation. So we have a hard upper limit as to what we can borrow, and this is why I think we're starting to break while the U.S. is able to keep going. Because we just can't finance. We're trying to finance our way into living the same lifestyle as Americans, and it's just not working. You know. Now I wonder for these Latin American countries, especially if the first world has a major downturn, because a lot of these countries they make their money through exporting to first world countries, like whatever they produce, whether it's food or raw materials or manufactured goods, whatever. They also get a lot of remittances too. I wonder if that's going to continue. And ironically, things getting worse actually makes it better for us because this is something that I brought up on the CMaxing stream, but it applies here as well. And it's something I've alluded to a few times already. The police presence, the competency of the state is far weaker in these countries to the point where people pretty much know if you're like not in a highly populated or very well controlled area, people have this impression in the back of their minds. They know on some level they could kill you and get away with it pretty much, and you could kill them and get away with it. So that changes the
But
dynamic on
the
how you interact with each other, you know.
do the ladies know that like you could like I mean, kind of related to that. I mean, this is somewhat off kilter, but did maybe like the ladies know that like you could surprise snuggle them theoretically? Like does the kind of like lack of law enforcement affect the ladies in that way, Elizur?
Yeah, actually, how about you talk about that a little bit, Elzak? Is there,
Or
I know we
Elza?
touched on it a little bit before, is there some
Yeah.
awareness that women have about their safety, or like in reality how safe are they, would you say?
Yeah. Yeah. Not only females, but I think everybody knows like uh, how it works. The corruption is so high, like the government acts like a private institution, basically. So, in my view, we are living a sort of anarchy where the government is basically a private institution. So the police works as a private um security. The police protects only the governmental structure. They protect their families, and that's all.
So how do people deal with like if something happens to, say you have a sister and she gets like sexually harassed or even assaulted or something, is there like, does the family take retribution? Is it, because it sounds a little bit like early modern Europe, like the 1600s in Europe. This is actually something
Okay,
I've
yeah,
thought about with Latin America. It's kind
yeah.
of like Europe
Maybe
before modernity, because that it
yeah.
really was like that back then. You know?
Okay, okay. Let's talk about these differences. There, if you're living like in the capital city in a in a regular neighborhood, yeah, the police are gonna act. They are gonna try to find out the guy. But if you're living like not in the capital city, you're living in a medium sized city, maybe there is not gonna happen nothing. Nothing's gonna happen, maybe. You're gonna go to the police and then they're gonna say that trying to find the guy, but then nothing's gonna happen.
Okay, so it
So it
really
depends
is
where
like
you are.
a so if
And
nothing.
also depends also, yeah,
Oh yeah, go
depends
ahead.
on your social condition. Like, are you rich? Are you poor? That's very important for the police.
Yeah, yeah. This is something. So there's another guy that unfortunately he wasn't able to make it. Now I hadn't asked him beforehand, so it's not like he ditched on me. I just asked him last minute. He wasn't able to make it. There's a guy named Ojit that's in our circles, and he's a Mexican American. Now he's second gen, I believe, or third gen, something. But he has relatives in Mexico that he goes back and forth and visits. And he'd mentioned how um, there was a relative of his that actually got kidnapped. He's from a fairly decently off family, like not super rich, but they're better off than average in Mexico. And her father owned a factory, and yeah, she was just kidnapped, and the kidnappers demanded a bribe, and they paid it through the police. But the police actually pocketed like half the bribe or something along those lines, and yet they actually had to pay more. So the police were actually in on it in Mexico.
That was in Mexico, right?
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
like,
it is
what?
worse. Like,
I was like, okay, so this is a different situation than what, because in the CMAXing stream, we talked about how, okay, so if you have a legal dispute with a local, um, you are probably not going to win on fair grounds unless it's really obvious. Like, there's no way they can squeeze out of it just because they protect the locals. The government's there to protect the locals first. They're going to side with the locals over a foreigner. But in these countries, Latin America, it's not even that. You know, it's like it's like a
yeah,
real life dark RP for anyone that's played Gary's mod.
yeah. Remember, I mentioned it's like a private institution, so you need to pay them because
Yeah,
they are private institutions. So it works
yeah,
like that.
yeah. Oh, that's something else. But these women, but they still act as if they don't. Well, maybe that's just I don't know. Like, I don't want to go like all Darwin on this and say it's a racial thing or whatever. But it seems psychologically they just they don't have the fear that like white women have. You know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was mentioning that feminism has hit differently here in Latin America.
Yeah.
Like, maybe they don't females here. They don't hate men. They don't hate men, but they feel superior in some ways.
Yeah. That makes sense. Though I fear for when feminism does start taking root. Like, I've been seeing some weird stuff coming out of Brazil. There's a video that I would have wanted to post, but I can't because it has naked women, and it's not because it's any kind of like sexual video, but there's these women in, it's either Brazil or Argentina, and it's like this feminist protest at this cathedral, and they tore all their clothes off and were screaming like wild animals. Like, it was the most bizarre thing I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
Now I'm wondering,
Then
like,
maybe in Argentina. Argentina is more crazy about feminism.
yeah, and Brazil too. Brazil is also really bad, and it's peculiar that these countries have a pretty high proportion of whites relative to the overall population. It seems
Yeah.
like they're getting hit harder faster. I don't know if it's just because it's easier to transmit across those lines or what, but it is something. Yeah, Argentina is
Yeah.
almost as bad as a Western country now.
I would say yes. Yes.
Yeah, but you're saying even though the standards are going up in Peru, you're not seeing the man hate yet. You know, it's pretty easy to like. Would you say it's easy to like go up and talk to women in general?
Uh, could you repeat? Maybe the stream is
Would you
cutting
say it's
out. I
easy
don't
to
get the
just
word.
like women that you're not familiar with? just say that you bump into or something, you're able to like have a conversation with them or something?
Yes, I mean, if you have, I mentioned the threshold, so if you are decent looking, yeah, yeah, it is.
Okay, so there is a looks threshold, you would say.
It is. There is a low threshold, and also I would say there is a high threshold too.
A height threshold. All right, what would you say the height threshold is? If you had to roughly say.
170 centimeters.
Okay, so 170 is about 5'6.5", 5'7", approximately.
Yeah, that's the threshold. Because
Okay.
also
That's like turbo. That's turbo manlet in the U.S., dude. Like
I imagine, yeah,
every
I
every
imagine.
Zoomer I see is like over 6 feet. I mean,
Good.
I don't know what happened, but like every Zoomer is like over 6 feet.
Yeah. All right. So there have been points in the past where I've said that for turbo manlets who are like below 5'7", it would be an option for them to go to short countries, and I would have included some Latin American countries in that. But what you're telling me is that that's not really the case anymore. Even in countries like Peru, which I think is one of the shortest on average in Latin
Yeah,
America, you're saying even then, like 5'7" is the cutoff. Like you're gonna you're gonna have problems below 5'7" due to your height, is what you're saying, right?
yeah, because remember, we're talking about the young females, by the way.
Yeah.
So the girl I mentioned, the girl I mentioned before, the dancer, is like 5'7" in height. You know,
Oh
so
wow,
this,
and that's a
so
female. That's a female height. So that's
so so
pretty
these
tall for a
girls,
female.
these
Yeah.
new girls are also not short. They are not short.
Yeah. That makes sense. Oh, by the way, somebody's asking 3 hours, but only about hair maxing. Zoltan, we're gonna do at some point in the future an Eastern European cell stream. I don't know if I'll call it a Slav cell or Eastern European cell, but that one's gonna have a lot of hair maxing stuff because we know that that is basically the demon that haunts all Slav cells is the Norwood Reaper. It's like this is a digression, but it's really funny if you look at have you guys seen those composite faces where they'll like overlay the photos of people over top each other in a given country, and the common features will blend together, and there'll be like a face that emerges that is like the average face for the entire country. You guys know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I know.
You've seen those. If you look at the Slavic ones, like the Polish ones, you can see, and it's brutal. Even their composite faces are balding, and we're talking like young males. It's really fucked up,
Oh, brutal.
and it's really funny because if you look at Austrians, we know that Austrians have a bit of substantial Slavic ancestry, actually. Like as you go further east into the eastern parts of Germany and in Austria, there's more Slavic ancestry, and you see the hair getting worse compared to the Western Germans. It's so brutal. It's really shit. That's actually my understanding is Latin America, especially with indigenous ancestry, balding is not an issue you guys have, right? That's one problem I do
You're
not
right.
hear a lot of.
You're right. It's rare to see. Okay, there exist like indigenous people who are bald, but it's so rare. Like, it is rare.
Yeah. So it's hard to say exactly what the impact of being a bald cell is, right? Um,
Well, Google AI says it's not accurate to say there's no balding at all in Native
yeah, yeah.
Americans. But
AI says that you
Yeah.
can't say that you can't make any judgments about anything. You have to assume outliers mean that there's no judgments you can make. Yeah. Thank you, AI. Thank you for that contribution.
that line.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, AI.
Yeah.
Google AI is good. It's not like Grok, which is too aware.
Yeah. My drug dealer turned Spanish teacher, Latin American guy, don't have balding at all. That was really funny. No, we do not advocate that. We do not advocate anything related to substances. But I mean, this is a thing
Yeah.
I've heard, and it does
No.
look. It is true, and we can include alcohol in this. It does make it easier to interact with these women. Their standards for basically giving you fuck off vibes, those standards go down if they have like alcohol and stuff. This is probably why, one of the reasons why the reduced alcohol use has kind of made it a little harder for Zoomers, actually, now that I think about it. Yeah, because weed doesn't necessarily have the same effect.
I think it's the other way around. I think so being on alcohol, if you're by yourself, is not as good as being on weed if you're by yourself. And I think Zoomers were by themselves anyway, and so as a result, they've switched to marijuana as opposed to alcohol. I think you have the causation like reversed in your mind. Like I think being on alcohol and like not getting to be around Freuds, or like having Freuds or ladies ignore you, I think is worse than being on weed and having ladies ignore you. So I think it's the other way around, dude. Like I think it goes back to like the ladies. Like I think if the young guys had access to the ladies, they'd probably be more on the alcohol. I think the reason they're less on the alcohol is because like there's no ladies anyway. So
Yeah,
being on the alcohol,
that's a part of it, but it kind of feeds on itself, right? Like I remember I used to go to bars.
But I think it's clear which came first. I don't think it's like a chicken and egg thing. Like I don't think
I would disagree. Actually, I was gonna say, I used to go to bars pretty regularly, and well, by regular I don't mean like every day, but like maybe once a week. About 5 or 6 years ago, actually a little more than that. Like it was before COVID. Before COVID, I used to go to bars at least once a week, and I found that as time went on, as we started to approach the COVID era, there would just be more and more dudes. There'd be fewer and fewer women there. Like it was weird. It was like the women were just disappearing from the bars.
Yeah, so like, why would you go to a bar and it's just like a bunch of dudes? Like,
yeah, it's like I can say that I've had beers bought.
Unless you're already married and you want to like shoot the excrement, but
yeah.
If you're like a single guy, like, why would you want to go to a bar with a bunch of dudes?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm a pretty good conversationalist, and so I've actually had beers bought for me, but they've been by dudes who just liked what I was talking about with them. So, I mean, I could say I got beers bought for me at bars, but it's always been dudes. Never been a chick, ever once in my life. So it's not because I can't socialize, okay? It's not the personality pill. I can say that much with confidence. But yeah, and it's weird because we can't even blame dating apps anymore, if you think about it. It used to be people blame dating apps for this thing, but dating apps have kind of fallen off. You don't really hear people use dating apps, guys or women. Like women might still use them occasionally, but they've largely exited.
Okay, I think females are lying because a lot of females have told me they don't use that. They don't use dating apps, but secretly they are using it.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I see a lot, and I've seen a lot.
Do you think they're just using it for attention though, like just to see who would swipe right on them, and then just kind of take it as an ego boost?
Both attention, and also they are dating those new guys.
Okay.
As long as they are attractive, but they are using dating app to find basically chats.
Okay. Now, are they using, because I remember Badoo was fairly popular, are they using the more common apps now like Tinder, or are they using something new like Hinge? Or
In Latin America, they are using Tinder, and also they are using Facebook dating.
Facebook dating, yeah. Facebook dating. So in other words, Facebook is still a thing, because Facebook over here is kind of boomer coded. People associate it with older people now.
Yeah, I will say like the Zoomers are using more like not they are not using Facebook that much. The Zoomers.
Yeah, now it'd be like
they're
Instagram.
Using more
right?
Instagram. Yeah, they're on Instagram or TikTok.
Yeah, Instagram, TikTok. So is it now? I haven't really used Instagram that much. I haven't had a reason to. Is Instagram? I know that people use it to post selfies and shit, and I think videos. But is it more? Is there like a social media aspect to it? Like, can people? Is there like a dating app portion to Instagram?
Can you repeat, please?
Is there like a section in Instagram that works like a dating app, or is it just a?
Oh, oh no, they are meeting random people, just following random people.
Oh, they just slide in the DMs, as they say.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right. So what you're saying is it's over for us that don't have pre-built social circles.
Yeah. I mean, if people here are planning to come to Latin America, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying like it's gonna be difficult for you, but be
It's going to
aware
be
of like
difficult for you.
be aware of the difficulties and the problems. Like, first of all, go to an area that's secure, like for tourists. Like, don't go to the slums, like, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So Medican, who owns the server that we're operating with, he has mentioned before that his tactics when it came to Thailand was he would go to these areas where he could save money, even though the standards were not as high. Like, they were more local oriented standards as opposed to touristy standards. That is not something that you could do in Latin America as a foreigner, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, it is not safe. It's not safe place. Latin America is not safe. Okay,
Yeah.
there are good areas. Yeah, there are good areas. You can go to like uh how do you say, bars where there's police. You can go to downtown. There are places where they are safe, but you should be always like be aware of where you are. Like, you go to a neighborhood that you don't know, then it's over.
Yeah, that's true. This is something else I was told by this Colombian guy I knew, because I remember I would talk to him sort of on these topics. And he told me that, and again, I don't know if this applies only to Colombia or if it can apply to everywhere. I know Colombia is a little sketchier than a lot of Latin American countries, but he told me you want to make sure that you know somebody on the ground there that you trust. You don't want to just go in there blind, because the risks, even though there are, even if you try and stay in the big cities where there's more of a police presence, things can just happen, especially if you get tangled up with women. Like, there's an entire subsection of women in Colombia who their whole game is to get you interested in them and then slip you a one of these exotic drugs in Latin America that causes you, it's almost like a truth serum. It makes you completely disoriented, and you tell, if they ask you anything, you tell the person whatever. So like, if they ask you for your PIN number for your bank card, you'll tell them. And then they just end up waking up like hours later, missing everything. Like, they've had all of their money
Wow.
stolen and stuff like that.
Yeah, I have heard that same story, but I guess it's like this magical powder doesn't exist. It's just people who, they will try to ask you for your passcode, saying, if you don't give your passcode, I'm gonna to kill you, and then they give their passwords.
Yeah, that's true.
Basically.
Yeah,
It's the old fashioned way,
that
right?
seems effective.
So, yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
yo, these Colombians, okay, they're sophisticated. They're gonna rely on these exotic drugs that cause you to just lose your mind. But Peru, they just point a gun to your head.
Yeah.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. There is no magical powder because I have tried those. I have tried those. There is a
Yeah,
pink powder. There is a blue powder. I have tried those thanks to
there's
the
a bunch of
to the
different.
dancers and
This is starting to
cosplayers.
sound like
Yeah.
an RPG. It's like you lift up a rock and you see blue powder underneath. You grab it, you stick it in your bag.
Yeah.
+2 to perception.
So
Yeah.
maybe like the summary of what you're saying is Latin America is like still somewhat better than the U.S., but don't go in with any expectations. Is that like the summary of what you're kind of saying?
Exactly. Like, some people, because I also watch Black Pit content, And some people think like because you are white that you're gonna be chat here. No, sorry, but it's not like that.
Yeah, no.
Brutal.
So this is what I wanted to talk about in these streams, because what you see with a lot of these geomaxer types, whether they're, even if they're black pill adjacent, they will really sugarcoat a lot of this stuff. They won't talk about the realistic situation. You know, like we talked about how age made a difference in C-maxing, and like what your real options would be based on your looks and based on your ethnicity, etc. And this is what I wanted to get into with Latin America too, because you just see way too much people that are clearly trying to sell something. You know what I mean? They're not being honest about what you should actually expect.
Yeah, to be realistic, imagine, okay, this is gonna be very generalization, but if you are like a 5 out of 10 in Europe, here you have one extra point. You are a 6 out of 10 now in Latin America.
Yeah, and that can be enough to push you over the edge, right? That can be enough to get you where you want to go, but you just have to be realistic and understand, you know, what your options are. Anyways, we have Aibo here, and he wanted to talk a little bit about comparing C to Latin America. He was listening in. How you doing, Aibo?
Hello, I'm good. How are you guys?
Oh, pretty good. It's been a great stream so far.
Yeah, I just can totally agree. Yeah, with Elzak, him saying that you get one extra point on the look scales if you move to Latin America. I would say you get even 2 points if you are blonde and have blue eyes, right? Would you agree, Elzak?
Yeah, but that I think that goes everywhere else. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it doesn't really matter in Europe, right? Like in Europe, it's sort of more common. Like this is what I was used to when I was growing up. Like most of my family's blonde hair, blue eyed. It's not really that unusual. So it was kind of like a nice thing, maybe, but it's sort of like a give or take, you know?
It definitely not one or 2 points in Europe. I would say it's probably half a point, if even.
Okay.
So yeah, because I know, you may also know him, one of our boyos here, Yak, right? He just he's in Germany now, and he has a girlfriend from Mexico, right? She's working as a I think she has a job now, right, in Germany, and is learning for the language exam, right? So she can stay in Germany. So one option may be, of course, if you don't want to leave the West, right, is to try to date, well, with those foreign women, right? Asians, Latin Americans, Africans, whatever you like. That's a feasible option.
Did he import this like foreign woman, or was she like already like into the West?
No, she came with the work visa, right? She found the work here in Western Europe, so, and now obviously she's doing the language exam, so she can stay because she found a job that wants to keep they want to hire her for more than a year or something. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, didn't
So that's.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's your option. I also had great success here in Western Europe by dating foreign students, right? Because usually many foreign students, they do their bachelor, right, in their home countries, China, India, Latin America, wherever, right? And then they come here to do, I don't know, 2 years of an additional years they need to do their master, right? So many do their bachelor in their home country, and they come to do the master only here. So some come to do the bachelor and the master, so the complete studying in Western Europe, and I think there should be even more Asian students in Canada and in the US, I believe. Yeah. So, and then another option would be you try to date those au pair girls, right, who do this 1 year of being an au pair with the family. You can do this until 26, I think, as a girl and as a guy, right? You can go to a foreign country, and this family have to pay you basically a allowance of a few $100, euros, and they have to let you live in their house, in their place, and feed you. Yeah, so that's the deal. I think you can do this until 26. It's mostly women. It's mostly girls, right? It's
Wow,
a few men only.
that's like a free geomaxing option for women.
It
You think
is.
about
It
it.
is. That was also. It's one of our fellow boyos. Jack is doing this at the moment. He's dating a Mexican woman working here in Western Europe. And also, when I was younger, I had way more options and more pleasant dates with foreign students who were studying here in the West. Mainly from most of them are from Asia, some from Latin America, and the other dates I had was with au pairs, right? A woman working as au pair for a year. Yeah, so that's feasible. Yeah, that's a really, like, you don't have to geomax for it. Try it. As I said, these girls, they study, they do au pair, so they are between 20 to 25, 26. Granted, there is some women who are older when they go to study abroad, right? But I think that's an option. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And isn't it crazy how women have these options to not only geomax in terms of better demographics for them, but they also get an upgrade in their living standards, you know? Whereas men, it's like a trade-off, you know?
Yeah.
It is really brutal. Anyways,
Then again, if you look at, right, Mercer, if you look at history, man, they always had to go to find the bride, right? And back in the days, they went to the neighbor country, right? To the neighbor cities, right? To the Nowadays, since the world is globalized, well, you have to go to Southeast Asia or Latin America or Africa if you prefer that one. You see, so that's the scope. The scope of it with this globalization extended so much. Imagine back in the days, our grandfathers, right? They went to look for a bride, right, for a wife, to the neighbor cities, right, to the area where they lived, right? Now you have to go to Latin America, Southeast Asia, or wherever, right? You see, it's very interesting how the scope has just magnified. It has just like extended to the whole world. Yeah.
yeah. Is there anything else you can add to the comparing the CMAXing to Latin America? Because you obviously are the CMAX expert here, right?
Well, I talked to I talked to Elsac before. We had a few discussions about this, and probably I might try Latin America. The only thing that like turns me off is like really the crime, you know. As he said, there are safe areas everywhere you go. Of course, you just have to need to know them. But seriously, when you are in Bangkok, for example, right, or in Pattaya, it's like you can just go with the public transport. You can just go to any area. Yeah, this is really nothing's gonna happen. Yeah, and I think that's really a big difference, right? So there are, of course, in SIA, right, in Southeast Asia, there are some countries which, well, for example, Philippines, right? There they have like ghettos. They have some areas where you really shouldn't be. So, but Thailand is safe. Malaysia is safe. I don't know about Cambodia and Laos. Yeah. So, man, I mean, like, yeah. So there are
Aren't they
some
getting
more
blown up right
places.
now?
Yeah, there is a well, it's a dispute over the border, right? Just like the same thing basically happening between India and China all of the time, right? So it's just a total, yeah,
Just a big nothing.
a big nothing burger. It's just like, yeah, some soldiers died, some even 2 or 3 civilians died, I think. And now it seems to be almost over because the last thing I heard that the Thai and the Cambodian minister, they talk to each other and they seem to solve their problem. It's just a totally useless border dispute. You know, you have these things. If you follow the geopolitical scene or the media, you have India and China is basically almost every year one of these border disputes, right? So it's like a big nothing burger. Yeah, people died. Yeah, this time it's more harsh than the previous times, but I think this will be solved pretty fast.
I able. They're gonna solve it fast because they are based and peaceful.
That's the difference. That's another difference because Maddie just said it. Like Southeast Asians, many of them, there are some differences. Maybe as I told you, the Vietnamese are kind of more of a direct people, yeah, and so are the Chinese. Um, Philippines has really a lot of poor people, therefore they have a lot of scams and pickpocketing and possibly even real crime, right? So, but overall, I think it may be really their culture,
I'm gonna
right?
interrupt you here. Basically, the difference between South America and Asia. Basically, in Thailand, there is no unsafe place except the pirate scene in the south
Oh,
and the Golden Triangle in the north. Stay away from
yeah.
these two places.
Yeah, this is something I wanted to
And
ask about, by the way.
I want just quickly tell
Yeah.
some couple of stuff, and I'm gonna bounce back as a listener.
Yeah.
Mercer, great stream. Everybody looking forward to Copium then next week about money making, wage slaving. All this stuff is very important because that, well, sadly, money is this pieces of paper who. That's how you geomax. Without money, you can't buy the flight ticket. And people in the chat, snuggle the like button, show Mercer some love, like it up. Let's make 99 likes tonight.
Only 99.
And also, I want to say everything I know about Mexico or Latin America is from Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. Other than that, I am very unfamiliar with this lore. And in the past, people asked me about geomax to South America, and I didn't have any answer for anybody. I just said, bro, I'm not familiar with this topic because Latin America is extremely far away from me, from Eastern Europe. The flight ticket's gonna cost you 2,000. And also bad stories about safety and crime. So I will never mess with that in my life.
No, that makes sense.
Next thing, funny story. Mercer, did you know first time I saw a sport car was in the mid-90s in television in Argentinian telenovela. That's the first time I seen sport car as a 5-year-old kid
Oh
in
yeah,
the 90s.
the
I'm telling you,
telenovelas like
so there
have
are
all
no
like the white
so there are no
actors.
cars in Eastern Europe or no sports cars, that's for sure. And then in 96 I saw this Natalia Oreiro, okay? There was this telenovela and I see this Mercedes, sport Mercedes and whatever cars
Yeah.
in Argentina. And I'm like, wow, this place looks so modern and these people are so beautiful and the houses are so luxury. What is this? I didn't understand. As a 5-year-old seeing this telenovela from Argentina, I was thinking I didn't even know it is Argentina, you see, back then.
Yeah. You know what's
So yeah,
funny?
Argentina is far. Even Brazilians are geomaxing into Thailand, for example. The BRICS buddies,
Yeah. It's funny you bring up Argentina. That is something that I'm going to bring up in my economics, the one that we're going to do on waging and money maxing, because Argentina is kind of a funny case story of, this is a bit of a digression, but I'll just do a quick thing on them. In like pre-World War II and right after World War II, Argentina was actually on par with Western Europe in terms of wealth, and even America. Like they were as wealthy as first world countries. And then by the 1970s and 80s, they had fallen back down to just shithole tier levels. Now, there are many reasons for this, but I think one of the reasons is that Argentina is filled with Italians. And you do not let Italians anywhere near your government because they're just incredibly corrupt. Very intelligent people, but very corrupt. Anyways, that's a bit of a side note. We'll go into stuff like that afterwards in the economic stream. Just to bring it back to, and thanks for the add in there, Mehdi, by the way. Appreciate it.
Yeah. I just had this flashback from childhood when I saw this telenovela from Argentina, and I had to quickly join and tell you. But anyway, this is all I have to say. People in the quick chat, like it up for Mercer, and I'm gonna bounce back as a listener. So the mic is yours, buddy boyos.
Yeah, appreciate it. I was going to ask you, Elzak. This is something that occurred to me because we were talking about Thailand and then we sort of went back and forth. Well, one of the main upsides that you hear about Asia, like East Asia, Southeast Asia, is that Asian women age a lot better than white women do on average. Now, in Latin America, the reputation is a little bit mixed. In some cases, you'll hear people say that Latinas age well, and in other cases, you will hear people say they age like absolute dog shit. What can you tell us? I know that you're only limited to Peru in your personal experience, but what can you tell us on that topic?
Well, fortunately, I'm not limited to Peru. I've been to other countries.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, yeah. So, yeah, I can tell the variation is very high. Like, I've seen females in their 30s that are looking still good, and females that are totally over for them. So I guess the variation is higher. Like, you can see both things compared to whites and Asian females. Here's more variation.
Okay, because the main fear is that they pull the pin on the fat grenade, as they say, and that they'll just suddenly it's almost like overnight at 27 or something, or 26, they'll just suddenly gain 50 pounds. Now, I think that it's a little bit unfair because what people don't realize, because this stereotype has existed for like 15, 20 years now, especially, it's mostly in the States concerning Mexicans. And there is some evidence that like Mexicans and people with the indigenous ancestry there, they have a little more tendency towards gaining weight. Like they're not as good as digesting calories. But I think that that's a little unfair because in a lot of cases, these are women that would have children in their early 20s. And so they might have had 2 or 3 children by their late 20s. Like I'm talking before the fertility dropped. So we're talking like the 2000s, let's say. In that situation, then it's kind of understandable if a woman's a little overweight after she's had 3 kids and she's taking care of 3 kids. Like we're not talking about a woman that's childless in her late 20s. That's what we would be thinking of now, right? So have you noticed that personally? Because I know that you've lived long enough that you could actually have noticed any changes, any trends, differences between women and weight. Have you noticed anything like that?
You know, I see females because the females in their early 30s, they only have 1 children or maybe 2 at best, you know. They are not having that much children that in the past. So the meme, like females getting fat and ugly in Latin America, I mean, it's an old thing. It's a thing of the past. Because yeah, it was true. Like females, they used to have a lot of children, but now it's not the case.
Yeah, but did you notice that impact their weight? I mean, because this is what I noticed, at least when it comes to women, when they have children. I don't think it's because like women will claim that it's like a physical change that happens. I don't believe that personally. I think it's more so that when you have kids that you have to take care of, you kind of let other things go. And usually these women are attached to the father, and so they're not really worried about attracting a man at that point. So they feel more comfortable not taking care of themselves as much. I think that's what happens. I don't know if you noticed that.
True. Yeah, they are more busy, like taking care of the kids, and they are not. For instance, if they used to go to the gym, like they don't go to the gym anymore. They used to take care of their food. Now they just cook whatever they have to cook, and so they are not careful about counting calories. I think all these factors.
Yeah. Another thing I was going to ask, because the telenovela was brought up. So, so one of the big problems that we've noticed, especially in Europe, is there's been this homogenization because of the EU absorbing these Slavic countries. You start seeing like Western media penetrate into their media. Like it gets dubbed or it gets subbed, and then they watch the same stuff that our women watch, and it's usually the kind of slop that makes like it encourages bad behavior. Have you noticed
yeah.
anything like that in Latin America? Because I've read about the English language proficiency. It's still pretty low in Latin America, isn't it? Like I know in
It
Mexico
is.
it's better because there's a lot of Mexicans that go back and forth from the US, but I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure it's still fairly low. Like there's not a lot of English language skills.
it is. Like the only people I practice to is people who are actually language teachers. There are not many people talking English here in Peru.
So would you say that most of the culture is, or most of the media is local, or at least it's local to Latin America?
No, no, no. The media is that like people are spend the time watching media like Hollywood movies, um, Netflix series. So there is barely local media.
Okay,
There,
so you're saying it is starting to get homogenized, but they're just dubbing it, they're sending it in. Are you
yeah,
noticing
yeah.
any of the weird stuff that we get, like the I guess you could call it woke stuff, where it's like it's social
Oh
justice
yeah.
themes, that sort of shit, LGBTQ, transgender. Are
Oh
you guys getting
yeah.
more and more of that?
Recently, there was like a big parade, gay parade here in Peru, and yeah, so it is. It seems like it is all because of media. They are pushing it.
Okay, interesting.
Also,
Because yeah,
the NGOs are like they are investing a lot in that. Like it's like in the few years we're gonna see like in Latin America it's gonna turn like LGTB.
yeah, yeah. What's funny is, and this is something that we talked about on the CMAXing stream. Uh, Southeast Asia kind of neutralized that, and it may be because they don't have Christianity as the religion. Like they don't have the Abrahamic religion creating that tension, but they have like the ladyboy thing that goes on, and the LGBTQ stuff. It does happen, and it's not really. But they've managed to neutralize it by keeping it in a sort of containment zone where it's like it's not part of polite society in the sense that, okay, we have our families and we have like normal relationships and whatever. We also have the lady boys and they do their thing. And we see them as part of society, but they're part of like an adult section of society, along with prostitution generally, that is not part of the mainstream. Like we keep it separate, but we don't see it as evil or condemn it.
It's like they said the privacy of the bedroom, and then they have these like pride parades. It's like in maybe like non-Western countries, it's like they keep it the privacy of the bedroom. They don't impose it with like these like flags and stuff.
Yeah, they just don't really care. It's not a topic of, and it goes both ways. Like you see with the lady boys in Thailand, they don't talk about, like they don't claim to be women. They will say, we're lady boys, we are our own little niche thing. Like they don't pretend, they don't demand people call them she, her, or whatever. And it seems like they've managed to keep that. Like you don't see the LGBTQ stuff as an ideology attacking the mainstream society. I don't know. Like I've noticed, apparently transgender stuff has been a common thing in Brazil for a super long time. But they've also had a lot of issues with. I mean, they don't have any like police basically. Like they have no law enforcement that can control anything. So these transgenders get regularly murdered, usually for drug related stuff. But yeah, it just made me think of that. I just wonder if the same sort of dynamics that are going to that popped up in Western countries where there's like this tension between the LGBTQ types as they're trying to force their way into normal society, and then the normal people on the other end that are getting increasingly frustrated with them. I wonder if that's going to happen in Latin America too.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, in my personal experience, I'm using dating apps, and I there are gay trans that that are, how do you say, matching. No, they are liking my profile, and I'm like, what the fuck? There should be an option to only match with females, I don't want to see like trans people liking my profile.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you
Okay,
don't
so
like.
in the US, it's like very fringe. Like trans is a thing, but it's very fringe. It's not like it's not like you're gonna have like an epidemic of like trans liking your profile. It might happen, but it's not gonna happen like a lot. But in Peru, would you say it's worse?
Um, I don't think it's worse, but I mean, these big companies like Facebook, Tinder, I think they are trying to impose also the LGTB agenda by allowing, not having this selection. You should be able to select. Okay, do you want your profile to be shown to females only? Yeah, but no, you don't have this option.
Yeah, but they'll just claim to be females. That's the problem. They'll just set their bio to female.
Yeah, and there should be the option that so they can choose to be like trans females.
Yeah, but it's like, how do you control that? Like, because they can, like, I could make a Tinder account and I could set my profile to female, and there's no way to really control for that. Like, even though I look like a dude, unless they specifically do like AI tracking to try and figure out who's a guy. But then that runs into problems because you got like really mannish looking women that end up.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, so I could see all these logistic issues that pop up. It's kind of nice if you're a Thai, or you're in Thailand looking for a female and all the ladyboys just self-identify, so you don't have to worry about it. It's much more convenient.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Ayebo? I noticed you wanted to mention something.
I just wanted to ask because I was looking theoretically into like geomaxxing to Latin America, right? Just to try it. I mean, I think I would like it, but really the biggest problem is all of the organized crime going on there. But again, every country is different. The areas of the things. So what I have heard, like, so probably Elzak can confirm or give his idea. So I was looking where to go, right? And I saw that Uruguay is basically the smaller, more safe, richer neighbor of Argentina. Is this
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
All right. So if I would go to Uruguay, so what's the difference? Uruguay is economically more stable, or why is there this difference?
Yeah, it is more stable. There is more European-looking people. It's more safe.
Even more than in Argentina.
No more than Argentina. Equally to Argentina.
Okay, so it's your smaller, richer, and therefore also safer neighbor, right?
Exactly.
It's a copy of you, okay, but with all of the benefits of being a smaller state. Okay, and then I've heard that exactly the same, the smaller coffee, the smaller, safer, and with a better economy copy of Colombia is Panama. Is that correct?
More or less, yeah. Same demographic, same people, but only the economic thing is different.
All right, but it's safer, right?
It's safer, yeah, totally safer.
All right.
Colombia is one of the most dangerous countries. Colombia.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's always all of these YouTubers who are traveling. Even, I mean, Kurt Kass, right? He's the most famous one, probably you know him. Yeah. Even he talked about this.
They only visit like the main parts of Colombia. They don't go like inside the country. I'm talking about the country in general. The country in general.
So is it like, if you leave Cartagena or whatever, is it if you go more inside the country, it's even worse, or is it better with the crime?
Okay, if you live like these areas, you're gonna be very noticeable, like because there are not many tourists or people from Europe in these other areas. That's why you're gonna be very noticeable. The people are
You're
gonna be
more
like,
of a target.
yeah, it's gonna more easy to spot you. Like a criminal, it's gonna be easier to spot you.
All right.
Oh,
Makes
like
sense.
would the criminal rob you, or would the criminal like just try to sell you drugs or something?
I will say like it's not like you're gonna get immediately robbed. It's like you're gonna be a target, but it's not like okay,
Okay.
you go like to a regular area, middle class area, and you're gonna get immediately robbed. No, not. But you are putting yourself in. You're getting some risks. You're taking some risk. That's what I mean.
Yeah, the thing is, stories like this, and you can see it on the YouTubers and all of these. Also, read it on in Reddit, on the digital nomad forums. Even see it in all of these YouTubers' videos. Like, Jesus, like imagine they literally rob you naked. Okay, this is happening in Colombia. I heard of this, probably in other Latin American countries. They take everything. You find guys in their underwears, beaten up, nose, and if you are lucky, you don't have some stitch wounds from some knife or something, yeah, but only a bloody nose because the guy just took your shoes, your jeans, your polo shirt, your shirt, your phone, your wallet, and everything, your ring, if you had a ring or a gold ring or a gold chain or whatever, he took everything. So this is happening quite a bit, I would say.
Okay. Okay. No, I'm talking crime. I'm talking more about like pickpocketing.
Okay.
I'm not talking about that
But
sort of crime. Yeah.
but
No.
I heard about this, and also like they were. So I hear about this constantly. Probably it's not happening that often, right? Because it's more risky. Man, if the police catches you or something, that's way more. You will be punished way harder than doing pickpocketing. Yeah, but definitely the pickpocketing. If it's just pickpocketing, like I'm
Yeah.
trying to make a comparison, right? Like I told, like not all of Southeast Asia is safe. Like for example, Philippines, especially Manila, right, is like even the locals will warn you, hey, don't go there. Watch out for pickpocketers, right? Leave your wallet at home. Only take whatever $50 with you, whatever, right? So I mean, you can prevent all of this, right, or circumvent all of this, yeah. And then of course you can ask the locals or at your local hotel the guy at the desk, you can ask him where to go, yeah, and where is it safe and all of this. I mean, there's some things you can do, but just like for an example, something like this will just not happen in Bangkok or Kuala Lumpur, right, which is two of the better Southeast Asian countries, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the question now is, so let's say back to the topic. So let's say, so the thing is, I know that for example, okay, the bad thing about Thailand, for example, is that you cannot own property, right? So you'll never become a Thai citizen. It's very hard to become a Thai citizen, and you cannot own property. So as a long-term retirement, this means, well, you cannot take your money there if you have any, right? You will rent for life, or you buy the house, or your Thai wife or whatever buys the house, but it's on her name. And we all know that this can go wrong, right? Now I heard that in Panama it's actually very easy to buy property. It's easy to take your money there. Yeah, it's easy to get the passport, the Panamesian passport, right? I mean, we just heard about Panama Papers, right? But
Yeah.
it just recently, but it's also easy for the everyday guy, right? Because Panama Papers was all about these rich people. So Panama definitely I would like to check out probably in the future. I think that would be my first choice, and the second one would be as I said, like Uruguay next to
Uruguay.
Argentina. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like in all over South America, you as a foreign, you can buy property.
Where in?
In most countries in Latin America.
Ah, is it? Ah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. As a foreigner, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in Malaysia, I heard about this. In Malaysia, you can, but not in Thailand and the Philippines. So, well, That's a difference. That's one plus point for Latin America, I would say.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
How is it? How is it in? I mean, like, how about Buenos Aires? Like, do you have like some parts of Buenos Aires are ghettos, or is it
Oh
safe?
yeah.
Or
In any capital city in Latin America, they have big slums. All of them, all capitals in Latin America have big areas of slum.
everywhere, every capital in like whatever Montevideo, like every capital. Yes,
Yeah, every capital. Yeah, yeah.
doesn't sound good. Okay, so and you also told me, I think it was you. You told me, Elsac, that the city where Messi was born, right, the footballer, Rosario, or what's the name?
Oh, the city. No, I didn't mention that. I don't know much about Messi. I
Yeah,
don't know where he.
city is like one of the worst regarding crime, right?
Yeah, it may be, but every poor city in Latin America is like that. Basically, they are copy of
Well,
each other.
and again, I heard that this may probably also be a place I visit, right? Is this triangle between southern Brazil, right? Uruguay, and what's the third country there? You know?
Paraguay.
Yeah. Paraguay, southern Brazil, and Uruguay, is it?
Yeah.
Like the south of Brazil, or you just cross to the other two countries, Paraguay and Uruguay. I heard that's a generally safe and wealthy area.
Isn't Paraguay landlocked? I'm pretty sure
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Paraguay is landlocked.
Don't they speak a weird language? It's not. They don't speak Spanish as a first language. Isn't it like Guarani or something?
No, Spanish is the first language, but also they have Guarani, which is very prevalent.
Yeah. Yeah, Guarani or something along those lines. Yeah, I remember that.
What is Guarani like? What language is it?
It's indigenous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's indigenous from Latin America.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I was going to ask you because you'd mentioned that you'd been in a few other Latin American countries. Are there any other ones that you can talk about with any confidence, like about what's going on there?
Okay, I can divide Latin America. Let me see a map. Do you have a map there of Latin America?
I can pull one up.
Yeah, pull something there.
Wait a second here.
So we can divide Latin America like in 3 parts.
Okay,
Basically, okay, let's wait for the map.
Yeah. Come on.
For instance, Peru, Colombia, Ecuador, and Bolivia are more or less the same.
Here we go. Peru, Colombia, Ecuador, and Bolivia. So Peru, Colombia, Ecuador, Bolivia. So it's kind of okay. So that's sort of like Grand Colombia, but isn't it? I remember that's what I think that's what they used to be, right?
And you can even
Colombia.
You can even group like Colombia and Venezuela in terms of race.
Colombia.
Wait, I thought Colombia was more like African.
Yeah,
American
don't
like
tell
Venezuela.
tell the Colombians that. They'll be pissed off.
Yeah, don't tell them.
Okay, they like to try to deny it or something.
You can find a big African population in Colombia and also Venezuela. So okay, let's group Colombia and Venezuela together because you're gonna find like they look very similar, Colombia and Venezuela.
Well, you might as well because I'm pretty sure half of Venezuela is living in Colombia right now. Whenever I talk to Colombians about their situation, that's what they tell me. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Okay, so you're saying that Colombia and Venezuela are pretty much the same in terms of their background?
The same in terms of how the people look.
Yeah.
And then you can group Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia.
Oh, that's interesting. My understanding was Bolivia was like the most indigenous ethnically of all Latin American countries, other than maybe Central America.
Yeah, it is, but they have very much a lot in common with Peru and Ecuador.
Interesting.
A lot.
So are we saying culturally or ethnically, both?
Both culturally, ethnically, remember there's a language called Quechua, and there is a lot of population that talk that language in Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia.
Oh yeah,
A lot of
yeah.
people.
Okay.
So, and then you got Paraguay, Uruguay, Argentina, and Chile. Yeah, in Chile.
Yeah, don't the Chileans and Argentinians hate each other?
Yeah, they do hate each other, but you know, that's uh, that's history. You know, that's a thing of the past.
Okay, so we can safely ignore that.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
So you see, you have Colombia, Venezuela together, then Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, and you got the South: Chile, Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay.
okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Now, have you been in any of these countries long enough to get an idea of
I've been
what?
in these three areas. So I
Yeah,
know the three areas.
so you
And
know,
because they are similar to each other, they are similar. So
yeah,
I, I, I s- I will say like Venezuela and Colombia are similar only in terms of race. You know, they have basically the same mixtures of people.
yeah.
But Venezuela, you know the situation, the economic situation.
Apparently, it's a lot
Oh.
safer than it used to be because all the criminals just left and they went to every other Latin American country.
Yeah, but there is still poverty, and where there is poverty, there is going to be crime, a lot of crime.
Yeah, yeah, but they just ran out of because when everyone's poor, there's nothing left to steal. So you got to find if you're a criminal, you got to go somewhere else to steal, right?
Oh, that's all true, but it's more of like a joke. You know, there is still
Yeah, yeah,
crime
yeah.
there.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Venezuela is a good geomax option, though. I've
Yeah, you wouldn't.
actually
Yeah, no,
I've seen
same. I wouldn't
videos
recommend.
of boomers, white boomers, like American boomers, saying, "Oh, actually, Venezuela is really good. It's really cheap." I'm like,
Oh, okay. If boomers we're talking, they have a lot of money, so you can. If you have a lot of money, you can buy a good property in a good place anywhere in Latin America.
that's true. That's true. I suppose the real difference comes down to the living standards of the average person, really. I mean, rich people pretty
Yes,
much have the same living standard everywhere.
yes, exactly.
You know, there's this impression a lot of people get from Latin Americans, just in the United States in particular, that like it's just a region full of poor people that they're always just like low skilled workers and stuff. But what they don't realize is that's because the wealthier ones are not leaving. They don't have a reason to leave. You know, like they're just staying in their country because it's if you're rich in these countries, life is actually quite nice. You know, climate's a lot
Yeah,
nicer. Your money, if you're wealthy, you can get a lot more done with your money than you can in the US, like there's a lot more oversight in the US. Like if I was a rich Latin American, there would be no way I would be going up here, you know?
okay. It is me or the stream is cutting out. Maybe it's me.
No, I think it's okay on my end. Are you not able to, did you not hear me?
Yeah, sometimes it cuts out. The audio cuts out and
Yeah, it's
then come
also
back.
the same for me. Mercer, I have the same. You are also cutting out for me at
Okay. How
times.
much, how much is the cutting out, would you say?
Depends.
Yeah, like 20% of the words are cutting out.
How long has that been going on for?
The last 20 minutes.
Okay. Just 1 second here.
Now
I think I
it's
know what's
good.
going on. Hold on. I can fix this.
But now I understand everything. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
fortunately,
it's. I think
I
what's
can understand.
happening is my voice is. It's the sensitivity. That's the issue. Input
Okay.
sensitivity.
Oh, great.
Wait. So you guys can hear me right now?
Yeah,
yeah.
I
Okay.
think it's
Well, you know
better.
what? I'll just keep closer to my microphone then. Okay.
So
So, but did you hear what I was asking you? Or did I
Okay.
cut out too
Could
much?
could you repeat the last
Yeah,
question?
so I was saying there's this impression that a lot of Americans have that like all of Latin America is just poor and it's only full of poor people with no skills. And that's because they only see the illegals that are coming over. Because the wealthier people that have the money and they have the high class jobs, they're not leaving. They don't have a reason to. Whereas countries like India and China, they're super overpopulated. So like, and you know, the quality of life in India, there was this really funny, I wish I had clips of this, but there were these Indians that were commenting on this video of a guy who went through a Brazilian favela. He was just doing like one of those walkthrough tours, and they were like saying, these Indians, this looks like the wealthiest part of Mumbai. This is what they were saying in the comment sections. Like, this looks like a
India's
rich.
superpower, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know,
India's a
right?
superpower.
But then you realize, you know, actually it's not as poor as people think. Yeah, there are some really poor countries in Latin America, mostly in like Central America. But if we're talking about the southern half of the continent, it's not bad. You know, if you're wealthy, it's actually, the quality of life is pretty nice. Probably even better than Thailand if we do pound for pound. You know, I would say being poorer in Thailand is probably better, largely for crime reasons, right? But if you're rich, yeah, I'd love to be like a rich dude in Mexico. Hell yes. Or any of
because
these
remember,
countries.
in South America, there are some families that still have serfs, you know?
Yeah, that's true, right?
So they are living like in the 18th century. So, because if you are really, really rich, you have serfs.
Yeah.
People that do whatever you want to do.
You know, it's funny, in places like India, even the middle class of India, which in middle class would be kind of crappy by our standards, but even the middle class in India has servants. Like, everyone has servants, just because there's so many people and there's so little work that, you know, you can pay somebody like $1 a day to be a servant or something along those lines. Like, that's how much poverty there is, you know? And of course, in those situations, then even the smartest guys are going to get out, you know? But yeah, like a Chilean, a Peruvian, Colombian with a lot of money, hell no. I mean, we just talked about all the other non-monetary, non-money related reasons why you would want to stay in those countries compared to the US, you know? Like, you're not gonna be talking to any cosplayers in the United States. You know, it doesn't matter. Like, even if you are above average and you have above average money, no, that's not gonna happen. Especially not in your 30s. You got to be basically a Chad in his mid to late 20s at best, I would say.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the only reason why people travel to the US is
yeah.
because they don't have they don't have good education. They really don't know what's going on in the world, you know. They think we are living in the 90s or something.
Well, this is what you get with a lot of people. And I have a feeling that there's a lot of geomaxers that think the same way, which is why I'm saying this is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to do the geomax streams, even though they're a little more, they're not exactly the kind of stuff that I do on my channel typically, but it's stuff that I think we got to talk about, because these options are very time limited. Now, most guys are not going to take them as well. Like, this is something that I remember we used to talk about on Incelmatics. First, and I agree on this, is that, like, even if you can make a very solid case for geomaxing for guys that are of our background, the vast majority just won't put in the effort. It's too much effort, you know? So it makes a big difference. Oh, second.
I mean, you put the effort in what?
I'm sorry, say it again?
You say you have to put in the effort in.
Yeah, like you have to save up the money. You have to
okay.
you have to make the effort to go over. Most of the time, if you want to be smart, you have to learn the language, which I would say is a lot easier in Latin America than in Southeast Asia. I mean, Southeast Asia, you're pretty much like, it's going to be really hard to learn the language. I mean, Ivo, what would you say your experience is with learning language in Southeast Asia? Like, I know that the Philippines is English speaking, right? But Thailand,
Yes,
English
you
is still
don't.
pretty bad.
Yeah, you don't need Tagalog, the Filipino language. You don't need it. They all speak English regularly. Yeah, Thai language belongs to the Chinese cultural group or to the Chinese language group, and I find Asian languages to be very logical. You know, it's hard to learn the words, yeah, but it's easy to put together a sentence, yeah. you don't need to change the words. You just add another word if it's in the future or if it's in the past, you know? So they are constructed very logical. If you know one word and you want to, it's nothing like, okay, for an example, English is like I go, I will go, and I went, right? So you see, so go changes to went, right?
Yeah.
And in the Asian languages, it's not happening. Well, they just add another word to it, so you can always use these words. Learning it is, of course, difficult if you never had any kind of Asian language before. Yeah, and the problem is the tonality. They have the same word, but if it's spoken short or long or in an upward fashion or in a low fashion, it can be four different things. So, for example, you say like ma, and you say ma, so that's long, or you pronounce it upwards or downwards. So the same word literally can have three or four meanings. Yeah. Um, so it's logical. It's logical to learn. Yeah, but the how you build the syntax is very logical. It's more logical than Latin languages. But the words to learn to have the vocabulary, because you will need like 1,000 to 2,000 words, right, to be somewhat fluid, right? Well, that's the hard thing. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Spanish
And
is
it's easy
nowhere
to
near.
learn a Latin language because English is a Latin language for the biggest part, and many Western and Middle European languages are influenced by Latin language, so it's way more easier to learn Spanish than to learn any Asian language. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that would be one of the main
But I
reasons.
see,
What's that?
yeah, but I see one thing with the new generation in Thailand, that they are proficient English speakers. So I really when I'm there, I really try to talk with Thai persons, yeah, guys and girls who are as young as possible. I try to talk with 20-year-olds or anyone below 30 is like, you can say even the young generation for generation. The young generation is now a lot more people speaking proficient English in Thailand now. Yeah.
Oh,
So
geez.
it's changing. It's slowly changing. So they get proficient now. But again, I'm talking about the big cities. So how it is on the countryside, I cannot tell you.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right. Yeah, okay. So that's actually a bit foreboding to me. Because it seems like I remember one time I looked up an English language proficiency map, like worldwide English language proficiency map, and it was a weird parallel that you could see between English language skills and and like degeneracy, like just horrible shit. It's like a one-to-one connection. It seems like the more English that a country learns, the worse it gets culturally.
Well, the more they adapt, of course, because the more they will understand the propaganda of Hollywood and such.
Yeah. Though I just wonder, I don't think, like, I think Latin America is not going to change as much as we think it is, though. Just because, I mean, the population is, I would say, higher testosterone than what you would see in Asia. There's going to be a lot more, you're not going to see, for example, you're not going to see huge waves of Indians come in, I don't think. Like what you see in Western countries, even if they start getting wealthier, because Indians are very averse to risk. They're not going to go into a country where they think it's too dangerous. Like even America is starting to scare some of the lower end ones. So I wonder if they're going to be safe from that. Though the problem is that they have a much weaker history of controlling their borders than Asian countries do. Like I'm pretty sure they make it pretty hard to get into most of these Asian countries. Whereas Latin America, I know that Nayib Bukele, the guy who runs El Salvador, he made it effectively illegal to allow Indians just directly from India to leave the plane in El Salvador. They'd have to either go somewhere else or go back. But I'm pretty sure most of these Latin American countries, they just don't have the tradition to do that. What do you think? Have you noticed any influx of other groups like Indians by any chance, Elzak?
Oh, no, not really. Like the the population is mostly locals. There. I don't see much people from other countries.
So you're not
Other
seeing
than
any
tourists.
shift at all.
Other than tourists, not. Oh, okay, maybe Venezuela. Yeah, that's
Okay,
the
yeah,
most.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a big topic because there is like a 2 million Venezuelan people here now in Peru.
Okay, that
And
makes
that's not
sense.
even a lot. 2 million is basically nothing.
Well, the country is like a 34 million, so it is like a big impact.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've heard that.
Yeah, but Murcia, it makes sense because the wages in Latin America are still low compared to the West. So
Yeah,
if you can bringing the immigrants from the continent, right? Why should you extend to other continents? So makes total sense.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Now, actually, I was going to ask you, did you notice anything? Because one of the things I heard about Venezuelans, okay, they are a problem when it comes to crime, but one of the, I guess, side benefits is that there's a large influx of their women as well. Have you noticed any? Because it sounds that what happened with Venezuela, it almost sounds similar to what happened with Ukraine in terms of the huge influx of women that left the country.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a new topic. Like we can talk about a lot of that because it's immigration. Is I think it's the same all over the world. Like you have a big population to a new country, so the females that are poor are gonna be like involved in some sort of prostitution scheme. The very poor females, they're gonna be involved in prostitution, which is the case. The females from Venezuela that are poor, they are working in that business here in Peru.
Yes, they're notorious for that pretty much everywhere else as well. Like Colombia, apparently it's really dropped the price. And of course, we don't advocate anything like this. This is horrible, of course.
Yeah.
We condemn. But I have heard that it has massively dropped the price for cuddles, let's say.
Yeah. For instance, I'm not a user of that, but a lot of friends are, and they told me the prices. I know the prices. I know how it works because we usually talk about this, with other guys here, friends. So basically, what's the cost? How they cost? A female from Venezuela is basically you can find like $15, from $15.
$15.
$15, yeah.
1-5.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty crazy. Though I would also then wonder, like, what about quality control? Like, what kind of are we talking decent quality or are we talking like?
I will say like the very minimum you will take like because I'm not talking about like the old ladies
Okay.
because basically the girls from Venezuela they are young, basically.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
They're only in their 30s or maybe 20s.
All right.
But of course, if you want like a beautiful girl from Venezuela, it's gonna be higher.
Okay, how much higher would you say? If you had to guess.
I've heard like these guys are paying like something about $200.
Ooh, geez. Okay, so that's actually a lot more. Okay, that's
But
actually yeah.
we're talking about very beautiful females.
Okay, all right.
Like beautiful and young. Yeah, like you want a very female in their 20s, early 20s. That's what they are paying.
Okay. Now, so what you're saying then is that the Venezuelans, for the most part, have only really driven the prices down on the lower end, like for the lower quality. But the higher quality are still able to demand a pretty high price. Because
Yeah,
$200, that's a lot for Peru, right? Like that's that's at
it
least
is a
equivalent to what
lot.
we have to pay. Like if you were to adjust it upwards to.
It is a lot, but remember there are people who are making here like 1K. Like if you work in the for a big company, mining industry, for instance. And mining is big, in South America. It's a big industry.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see what you mean. Okay, so yeah, so there'd be because one of the other things that I forgot about in Latin America is the income inequality is actually a lot higher than.
It is very high, it is very noticeable. Like if you drive your car around the city, you can see all different incomes. It's funny. You will see
Yeah,
all kind of incomes just by driving your car.
so that's a little unusual for us because we're used to incomes being um, like in my case, I grew up. Now it's not the same way now because Canada's changed dramatically in the past 10, 15 years. But when I was growing up in Canada, it was like the opposite, where we were like America, but there was a lot fewer really wealthy people and a lot fewer really poor people. It was like most people were clustered around the middle, and it was pretty comfortable too. So it was kind of the opposite. And it is interesting how one of the things you notice about the U.S. as time has gone on, and as they brought in more Hispanics, like more Mexicans, into America, you started to see the income inequalities starting to look similar to Mexico and these other Latin American countries. I don't know if it's like inherent to it or whatever, but it is interesting. It is curious.
Yeah, it is. It is. But you always want to see this in Latin America. That's all over Latin America. You go to the very poor areas, they are living like in Afghanistan, and you go to the rich area, they are living like, I would say, better than first world countries. Yeah, because you can see very rich people with these big houses with stairs.
Yeah,
It is crazy, crazy to me.
this Asia probably not as pronounced, yeah, but it's also So
Yeah.
Well, Aebo,
yeah,
didn't you mention the king of Thailand owns like half the country or something? Like it's like a crazy amount that he owns.
Yeah, he's like okay. So it's okay. So we all know United Arab Emirates, right? UAE with Dubai and the two big Emirates being Dubai and what's the other one? Abu Dhabi, right?
Yeah.
And so the Khalifa or the Sheikh, yeah, of Dubai. Okay. So and then there is this small Muslim country in Southeast Asia. What is it again? Let me check. So anyway, so the Thai king is double or three times as rich as the sheikh of the UAE. Imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah,
yeah, you
it's me again. Yeah, they have roofs made out of gold, so no shit. But Mercer, when it comes to Venezuela, do you happen to know who are the richest citizens in Venezuela?
Aren't they? Isn't there like a white Venezuelan minority that's quite wealthy?
Wrong.
No?
It's the prostitutes.
Really? Why is that?
You really? Because the male thirstiness is unstoppable, and the Sims are throwing money at Zaza.
Yeah, but who has money? No one has money.
That's that. Those who still have, they're gonna pay for it. And as Alzak said, the gap is brutal. It's not only poor people, but also extremely rich ones, you see. Men who are simping.
Yeah,
But
that makes sense. I mean, it's
anyway,
possible that like there's still a rich minority in Venezuela. It's
because
never
in 2016, Venezuelan currency has collapsed. There was that hyperinflation, like.
Yeah.
But men are still paying for intimacy. That's the unstoppable force.
Well, yeah. Other than food and water and shelter, just basic survival. That's the next one up. You know, that it really is. That is what it is. You know.
But half an hour ago, you asked Aebo the effort about learning a language. So last week, I forgot to mention a lot of important stuff, including that there are two types of geomaxers. The ones who have girl waiting for them in that location, or the ones who are just going solo. And the first case, when there is a ethnic girl waiting for you, that's your guidance, who is also teaching you the language, by the way. It's hand in hand. It's right, Ayabo? That's the difference between...
Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
sense.
Isn't there a risk though there? Because you don't know if you could end up with a chick that actually has some plan for you, if you know what I mean.
So that's the pre-validation with video chatting. Before you go, you have to video chat with the girl for, I don't know, 1 or 2 months, and then you bounce. It's all about building reputation and trust and knowing the background. Yeah.
That makes sense.
But again, I am only highly familiar and experienced with northern Bangkok. That's it. That's all I know. 500 days in Bangkok. That's my style. I don't know nothing else about nowhere else, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we know that Southeast Asian chicks are known for trying to sometimes get money out of you, but it's not like it's a criminal risk, if you know what I mean. Like, it's not like some of the stories we're hearing.
Worst case scenario, you're gonna lose 200 euro. That's worst case scenario. By the way, me and Aibo are highly skilled. We know all the shit test. We know all the... We have all the countermeasures when it comes to this.
It's a little more lawless in these places.
I am only familiar with one particular location. Aibo have seen half of the world already, so I trust Aibo judgment on this.
Yeah.
You will, Mehdi, as you said, Mehdi once described it perfectly. So everything is fine, at the beginning, and then you know when you are getting scammed, you know when the scam is starting, because how did you say, Mehdi? Suddenly a lot of problems will appear in a short consecutive time, right?
There will be these family emergencies will start accumulating, and will start looking suspicious, and that's your signal to pull the plug. But I'm telling you, this is not for everybody. Most times you're gonna be lucky and have a real relationship with in Asia.
But get it, you'll know if you're in this situation. So let's say, I don't know, Mehdi, it can be 3 weeks of perfectly fine honeymoon phase and with no problems, right? It can be 3 months, whatever.
It can be even 1 year. Remember with Rung?
Yeah. It can be even 1. Yeah, and then the problem is, what you have to consider is that the family is putting pressure on these women. Yeah, actually, some of these women may really like you, they like the relationship with you, but there's always someone in the family asking, hey, this guy has money.
Peer pressure, hive mindset. Her besties and her sisters gonna also gaslight your GF into raising your effectivity when bringing money, aka take care of me. But come on, these girls, they have to eat, so some kind of beta boxing is necessary, basically.
Yeah, it's understandable. Money will take you a long way, but look, so my advice, this is also advice I got when I arrived there the first time, is from a geomaxer there, which I know he lives there for 7 years now, I think, and he said, like, okay, so basically, let's just make a summary here, right? You pay most of the time, right? If you have the money, if you can afford it, right? You pay for the apartment, right? She can visit you for half of the week, or she even wants to move in after a while, right? You fill the fridge, right? You pay for the stuff you eat at home. You pay for the restaurants, right? You may take trips. So, for example, you do border runs, and if she is off work or whatever, if she can have a vacation day or a week of vacation, she'll come along. Yeah. So you have to pay for 2 people. You have to pay 2 flights. Have to pay. Well, it's all one restaurant room, one hotel room. Of course, that's nothing additional, but the flight and the food there while you're doing a border run. So granted, flights within Asia are cheap, right? It's not that expensive, but So you'll have to pay for this. There's no way around this. We are not talking about even Steven, right? This is not Western Europe. This is not the Western world. You can talk about. I talked about this with my Chinese friends, with my whatever Asian friends, wherever they are from Asia. As a guy, you have to provide. You have to pay the restaurant. You have to pay her flight. You have to pay the vacation. You have to pay the rent. That's non-negotiable. Yeah. Well, Mehdi was successful in negotiating, so there is room to negotiate, but really this is what Asian women are looking for. Yeah, this is not the West. The woman will not ask you on the first date if you want to split the bill. Yeah, this is not gonna happen in Asia. So yeah. So you are back to the topic again. This is what a long-time geomaxxer advised me to do. He said, you are paying for the apartment, you are paying for the food in the fridge, you are paying for the restaurants, you are paying for the entertainment, including some of the short flights, yeah, to the neighbor countries for your visa run. You can take your girlfriend, wife, whatever with you. Obviously, you're gonna pay for the second flight ticket, right? So you're paying for all of this. No need to give her money so she can support her extended family. Yeah. If you can get a woman which accepts this deal, because every relationship is a business deal basically, and yeah, you are good to go.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Like I
Yeah.
mentioned in previous stream, you need to know what kind of geomaxer are you and what do you want out of relationship, because it can be confusing not knowing what do you want exactly. You know my style, I am all about complete cohabitation with the girl, waking up
Yeah, I
every
mean,
day.
that's clever. That's clever.
And yeah. Other boyos gonna tell you, I don't want that, I just want to hooker max, they tell me, and I'm like, okay, that's your style. Okay, do it.
Yeah, it's doable. I was gonna ask, Elzak, what's your experience along those lines? I know I don't think you've, like we haven't talked where you've had like a beta buck situation, right? But like in general, would you say that's more the norm there, where you're supposed to take care of the woman, or like how would you compare it to what Aebo just described, or how would you compare that to how Aebo just described it?
Okay, about beta max and about relationships.
Yeah, like beta buxing in relationships. How normal is it?
Yeah. Okay. By the way, I can hear the other guys good, but your audio keeps cutting out a little.
Yeah, I noticed that. My bad.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm closer to my
Yeah.
mic now, so it should be okay.
It's good enough. It's good enough.
Yeah. Okay. So there are situations where girls are gonna choose a long time partner that is richer. I think it's obvious, but I mean, if you're looking for hookups, it's all about looks. If you're looking for hookups, if you want like a long term, yeah, girls are gonna take into account money. So I think it's obvious, but that's the situation in Latin America.
So you say it's not too different from the West then? Like it tends to be in Western countries, though I would say America is actually more trad on these things than most people give it credit for. Whereas in Western Europe, especially like Northern Europe, there's a lot more, women are expected to have a lot more independence on the money stuff. Like they usually don't go for the beta bucks relationships. It's not really expected. So you're saying that Latin America, it's a little more like the United States in that regard then, right? It's more like middle of the road. It's not quite where women always expect it, but it's more like if you want any kind of relationship that lasts for any period of time, that's what it's going to be.
Yeah. So for instance, some personal experience, I met this girl who is a single mother. And of course, she is interested in how much I make. The first thing she was trying to ask me without being so directly, she was trying to ask me how much I make. So basically, and for hookups, regular gears, they don't really care about how much you make.
No, of course not. right?
Yeah.
Then it's all about looks. Then, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually something else, because we are approaching the close, but I wanted to get
Mercer,
your
I really think beta buxing in the US isn't what you think it is. Like I think it's more dying out than you
yeah.
think.
For Zoomers, it's not a thing. I'm talking more like up until recently.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
I think yeah, in the past maybe 10 years, especially 5 years, it's really I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's a thing.
it's not going to be a thing for Zoomers anyways because of how the economy's going. You know, like people are just not going to have the money for it. Yeah, like women are earning more than men are in millennial generations. They don't need it.
Yeah.
Like, what do we even have to offer them? We can't even offer. That's why I find it so funny when I see these guys saying men are checking out of marriage. I'm like, bro, we don't have anything to offer. Like, what exactly are you checking out with? You know, this is like saying you can't fire me, I quit. No, the best option that we have to hope that things just keep getting worse until it becomes impossible to fund these women. But I don't even know if that's going to happen. But you know, that's enough doom posting about America. We're reaching the end. We got about 10 minutes. We can go over if we have to. But I wanted to ask, as a last thing, Elzak, about the political stability of the country, because Southeast Asia is, even though they just had a blow up, so maybe this is a bad time to mention this, but overall they're generally pretty stable. You don't have to worry too much about shit hitting the fan and there being a massive protest. Whereas I remember in Peru, not so long ago, there was a huge protest. Like, it was like crazy. There was like police all over the place. Police were getting killed. Protesters were getting killed. It was massive. How do you see the stability of the country going forward, relevant to the timelines that we're talking about, like 10, 20 years?
Yeah, there are gonna be new protests in the future because that's very constant. That's all over history of the country in Latin America, very common. But that happened a few days, and it is everything normal. Because by this generation, they don't care about nothing.
They just don't give a
So
shit.
they don't give a shit. Yeah. Mostly are people in there. Maybe my generation is at least. We still have the will to protest. But the new generation, no, they don't give a shit, bro.
Oh, wow. They're like Hiroshima, Nagasaki pilled when it comes to their countries.
Yeah.
Do you think the exposure that they get to, because it's way easier to see what life is like in Western countries now, or at least the manicured version of it that they see on like TikTok and stuff and streaming and whatever. Do you think that makes them, because people originally, the idea is that when they would see how life was in Western countries, they would become more upset with their governments because they would be like, well, we want to have a better standard of living. But it sounds to me like it's more like there's this apathy, like things are just shit and they're not going to get better, so we're not even going to care about it anymore. Is that kind of what you're...
Exactly. Not only because I see this in how people, the age people who are the protesters, they're usually older people. They are not young people.
That's interesting. It's usually the reverse. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. So not only that, but when I talk about politics I don't talk about politics with the chicks, but sometimes the topics they bring up the topic, and they don't think nothing is going to change. So they don't have any expectation of changing,
So it's just going to be the same but worse, is what you're saying.
Yeah, they think everything is going to be the same. So why should we protest if everything is going to be the same,
Man, that's a good point. I mean, in a sense, that's a good thing in some sense. I mean, you don't have to worry about the crazy violent protests, right? But
yeah.
That's a new normal. Imagine they called it new normal, right? So now a generation is growing up with the so-called new normal. Think about it.
Exactly.
Well, I guess they're getting really introverted too, right? Like a lot of these guys now are, instead of going out and socializing, they have all these copes that are a lot cheaper. Back in the day, not even that long ago, like 10, 15 years ago, not only was piracy a little more difficult, and like super cheap games was harder to get by, but also the computers and rigs that people would use to play games were just not as accessible. Nowadays, you can watch like pirated streams of animes or whatever. You can play games either pirated, or you can there's free games that are really decent, that are just good enough to cope with. You can get a pretty cheap rig now. You don't even need a computer, really.
Yeah.
Like you could just use a smartphone. There's lots of like these gacha games or whatever. Like we see this a lot in Asia, where there's a lot of coping with they'll use these gacha games and these like League of Legends and stuff, because there's an excess male problem in China, like just due to their birth ratio, because they aborted daughters, right?
You know what's funny? It is cope like anime. It is cope when you are doing by yourself, watching alone. But also it's just entertainment, because these girls, when they come, we usually watch anime.
Really? There are actually these weeb
Yeah.
chicks. They're also kind of degen, but they're weeb chicks. Like, dude, this is it's a weird world that you're painting for me. This is why I wanted to bring you on, because it's kind of like, I remember saying, this is like when you first were telling us the stories. Because I remember there was another story you mentioned where there was this woman. Wasn't there like two women in the bed? You want to, because we're approaching the end. How about you head
I
off with
didn't
that
mention
one?
the other.
Yeah, how about you
I
head
didn't
off with
mention
that
the
one?
other.
Give us that story.
Okay, the other girl that is in my life, it is like a teacher, and he's like 25 years old, and she basically, how can I? This has been like a 1 year since I met her, and thanks to that girl, I discovered that how females behave, because this girl basically, she has a boyfriend, and at the same time she's dating other five guys.
Oh, of
Yeah,
course.
it is crazy. It is, to me, it's crazy, like how females behave, because basically now she tell me everything, because now she knows, we know each other, because we having this affair, um like we seeing each other like every other week, and have sex, so she told me, no, she didn't tell me. I know she's dating also a sugar daddy. She has a sugar daddy. So basically, she's dating a guy. She has a sugar daddy. She's still seeing his ex, and now she's seeing me.
This
And
is a
this is
teacher,
just
by the way. This is a teacher, right?
yeah. This is another, yeah.
Oh,
It's another
lovely,
gear.
lovely. So this is
So
for us wholesome selves that want to create a family and stuff. This is who we have teaching the kids. Lovely.
yeah. And also, I'm talking about a decent looking girl. This girl, like above average looking. It's very decent. And also, she looks like a sweet girl. So you never imagine that a girl like that is having that life. You will never imagine.
Yeah. Okay, so go on. You were saying you'd met this chick.
Basically, that opened my eyes. Like I've been so, even though I've been watching Black Pill content, and I knew like how females behave. I will never guess like I will meet girls like that.
Yeah.
I can draw a reference to Southeast Asia here. So Elzak, probably you can say if something like this is also happening in Argentina or in Latin America. So for example, like many, especially Thai girls, also Filipinos, general Southeast Asia girls, but Thai girls are known for this, to having like several foreigners, right, lined up. Yeah. And then because I can understand from a view of a female, right, it's like, who of these guys will commit, right? Who of these guys will commit long term? Yeah, that's the question they ask themselves. So in a way, I can understand it. In another way, as a man, I can't, right? So the thing is, they have several foreigners, yeah, lined up, yeah. And even if the foreigner is not an expat and only visiting that Southeast Asian country for like a month every year or whatever, right? they ask him to send some regular money, right? Now imagine you get €100, $100, $150 from 4 different guys, or $200. You have your average Bangkok salary, and so on and so on. You see, so this is kind of brutal. So is this happening in Argentina and Latin America? You heard about the women there doing such a thing?
They have local sugar daddies.
Oh,
That
all right.
happens, you know. So imagine a rich, not rich, but a guy who has money, a good income. He has a family. This guy, he's in his 40s or 50s, and he can afford, you know, to give some money a girl each month.
Oh.
So he is now a sugar daddy of a young girl, you know.
Oh.
That's what's happening.
And then I have another question before we close this live stream here. Is it like how many of, because in Asia you see a lot of these couples, right? When there's a white, a Western expat, yeah, living there, and he's like much older than the local woman, yeah. Talking about guys who are like 50, 60, and having a girlfriend or a wife who is 20 or in the 30s. So you see some of these couples. Is it seldom, or is it often in Latin America?
I will say it is not common, but nobody will care. Like, yeah, like because yeah, it is not common, but yeah, I've seen that age gap difference. I've seen that.
So I guess then in Southeast Asia it's probably more common. I would say so.
Yes. Because yes, there are some people, then girls, feminist girl will be like, what the fuck? Why is this guy a predator or so and so? But it's like not very common. Like, okay, we are used to it. This is the like our parents, my parents, you know, my generation, they have that gap difference, so it is not that rare to us.
Yeah, but the difference of, I don't know, 5 or 10 years is acceptable in any country. You know what I mean? That's not a big gap, right? A few years, possibly even up to 8, 9, 10 years. I mean, that even I think, yeah, but you are definitely right. And this was what we're talking about, right? It's, look at the new normal, right? The Hollywood and all of your media outlets, they are selling you the old woman, young guy normal, yeah. In which biological world, in which logical or biological world this is normal, yeah? It's not. A woman can get kids until 50, let's say. That's really maxed out, yeah. Some women cannot get pregnant with 40 already, yeah. It depends on your lifestyle and genetics. While most men can produce a child, let's call it that way, 1 day before they die, 1 minute before they get a heart attack, yeah. So in which biological world, or even in a logical world, it's normal to promote the relationship between old women and young men? I just don't get it. To me, it's totally unnatural, yeah. So, and that's what you said, Elsak. That's why we have this feminist idea, right, for calling these relationships out, yeah, and not calling like the old guy and a young girl, and not calling out the other relationships with this old woman with the young guy, because the other way around, the old woman with the young guy is way more unnatural. It's not a possibility to have a child anymore. So it's totally unnatural. Just think about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that thing is a sign of modern times.
Yes, but who is promoting it? It's always, it's coming from the Western media. This is who pushes this stuff. Yeah. So
yeah. Well, that's basically the reason I'm hanging out in this service, because of I am a guy who's anti-feminism, you know.
Well.
Yeah.
We all know now. I mean, we had the other counter argument against feminism. I mean, we just said it, or Mercer said it 10 minutes ago, right? That young women out-earn young men in the big Western cities. So there you go. That's another argument against the state of feminism we are right now. It's too far gone. It's too extreme. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, totally.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, we are pretty much out of time now. Actually, it was great, a great segue to finish that off. Thanks, Elzak, for coming in. That was excellent.
No, thank you
That was
for inviting
exactly
me.
what I was hoping for. You did a great job. And thanks for everyone else, as well as Aebo, Marimi, and Medican. It's been great. And thanks to the chat as well. So talk to y'all later.